Hello guys, welcome to Soul Fiction. So in this video, we will see the what if Naruto was reincarnated with powers of Mob Psycho 100. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The Second Chance. Late morning Ninja Academy grounds. A gust of warm air ruffled Naruto Uzumaki's hair as he stared at the familiar sight of the academy's courtyard. The towering building, the laughter of students dashing through the gates, and the stern voices of shinobi instructors, it all felt like a dream. Or, more accurately, a memory. His heart hammered in his chest. Everything looked exactly as it had years ago, before it had all gone so tragically wrong in that previous timeline. Before the betrayal. Before he learned how deeply fear and jealousy could run in people who once called him a friend, or even a hero. Naruto clenched his fist, recalling the twisting knife of betrayal when some of the highest-ranking ninja, his own comrades, turned on him. The raw ache pulsed in his chest. He'd fought for Konoha, bled for it, only to be cast out. Yet here he stood again, dressed in bright orange, physically the same scrawny kid he'd once been. But something monumental had changed. His chakra still churned within him. But so did another power entirely. An energy different from anything in the shinobi world. It throbbed under his skin, quickening when he felt intense emotions. He could move things with his mind now, though he hadn't tested the full extent. He suspected it was terrifying. A pair of academy instructors walked by, ignoring him as they chatted about the upcoming graduation exam. Naruto snorted to himself. They have no idea what I can do. But he had to be careful. His second chance wouldn't matter if he blew it right away. He wasn't the naive boy from before. He knew exactly how dangerous the world could be and how cunning the village elders could become if they sensed a threat. Right now, he needed to blend in and play the part. Still, he couldn't hide his smirk. No more clueless dead last. This time, I'll be the one in control. Afternoon inside the classroom. Cramped wooden desks lined the classroom. A few students who recognized Naruto from his pranks snickered as he made his way to his seat. The old Naruto might have retorted, might have shouted about how he'd be Hokage someday. But the new Naruto simply let his gaze drift over them. The hush of the room deepened as he locked eyes with some of the more vocal bullies. They felt something was off about him now. A flicker of intimidation crossed their faces. He looked calmer. Sure, and there was a spark of danger behind his usual bright blue eyes. "Hey, Naruto," called a voice from behind him. He turned, noticing a pair of girls, Ino Yamanaka and Sakura Haruno, both looking at him oddly. In the old timeline, they'd never paid him much attention beyond superficial annoyance or pity, Sakura especially. This time, though, the curiosity in their eyes was obvious. "Ino, Sakura?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. Ino tucked a strand of platinum hair behind her ear. "Weird, you're usually loud as a firework." Sakura nodded, green eyes narrowing a bit. "He's got this weird vibe today. It's kind of..." She paused, searching for the right word. Naruto shrugged. "Guess I just got a good night's sleep." "Yeah, right." Before they could press further, Iruka-sensei strode into the classroom. "All right, everyone, settle down. Today's review is crucial for those who want to pass the final exam. Believe me, you'll regret it if you don't pay attention." The students groaned and shuffled to their seats. Naruto leaned back in his chair, recalling how this exam had gone the first time around and how Mizuki manipulated him to steal the scroll of seals. I won't fall for that again. In fact, he had other ideas about that scroll this time. Later that day, Academy grounds, training field. As the lesson ended, Iruka had everyone practicing basic ninjutsu out in the yard. Clones, transformations, the usual. Naruto pretended to struggle just enough to look like the old him, but he still pulled off a respectable clone jutsu. Enough to pass, not enough to raise alarms. "Hey, Naruto," Hiba Inuzuka called from across the field. "Since when do your clones look that good?" Naruto smirked, feigning casual pride. "Just been practicing harder than before, is all." Hiba rolled his eyes, but he and several other students had an inkling that something about Naruto wasn't quite the same. Sasuke Uchiha, leaning against a tree trunk nearby, watched Naruto with cool detachment. It was the same glare from the old days, prideful, laced with a hint of competitiveness, but Naruto could sense Sasuke's curiosity. The future Avenger was picking up on Naruto's shift in aura, though he likely couldn't put it into words. Then came a small voice. Almost a whisper. Naruto-kun. He turned to see Hinata Hyuga standing shyly, hands fidgeting at the hem of her oversized jacket. Her pale eyes held an intensity he recognized. Always so timid, yet always the one who truly believed in him. A warm flutter tickled his chest, and for a moment, the bitterness he carried eased. This time, maybe he wouldn't be so oblivious to her feelings. "Hey, Hinata," Naruto greeted with more softness than he intended. She blinked in surprise, cheeks coloring. You did well," she murmured. "Your clones looked strong." "Thanks," he replied, "but you're doing fine yourself." Her blush deepened. Then, as though the attention was too much, she scampered off toward the rest of her team. Naruto exhaled. That was oddly refreshing. When he looked back, he saw Ino eyeing him from a distance, lips pursed thoughtfully. She gave him a quizzical little smile, like she might approach, but a group of her fangirls pulled her aside. Naruto smirked again. Guess my new vibe's causing a stir. Nightfall. Naruto's apartment. Naruto sank onto his worn-out bed, the small one-room apartment dark except for moonlight streaming through the window. Memories of the final battle from his old life flashed in his mind. He remembered how the chain of betrayals led to a savage confrontation, him pinned to the ground by once familiar faces. The heartbreak, the rage, his chest tightened, he clenched his fists, an uncontrollable pulse thrummed beneath his skin. That psychic power. A swirl of tiny objects on his cluttered desk began to hover an inch off the surface. Shuriken, a stray spoon, and a half-empty cup orbited lazily in midair. A flicker of satisfaction cut through his grief. This power was something beyond ninjutsu or genjutsu. He recalled how, at the last moment of his previous life, raw fury had erupted from him, tangling with the Nine Tails chakra. It created an energy that didn't vanish when he died. And now, in this timeline, he had it from the start. He inhaled sharply. The objects clattered back to the desk. He'd keep training, keep his abilities under wraps until he was ready to make his move. He wouldn't be the village pariah or the gullible hero they could manipulate. This time, the world would learn that Naruto Uzumaki was no one's fool. The next morning, academy hallways. "Hey, Naruto," Sakura called, jogging over to him. "We have a practice exam today. Iruka-sensei said it's going to be pretty tough." She hesitated. "You doing okay?" He glanced at her. Memories of how Sakura used to treat him flickered in his mind, dismissing him. Adoring Sasuke. But right now, she wasn't insulting him or rolling her eyes. She seemed concerned. "I'm fine," Naruto said curtly, not unkind, but there was steel in his voice. "I'll pass. Don't worry about me." Her brow furrowed. "I wasn't exactly worried, I just whatever." She folded her arms across her chest. "You're acting weird, you know that." A faint grin tugged his lips. "Am I?" He stepped closer, noticing how she instinctively stepped back. "Or maybe I'm just finally showing my real self." She bristled at the sudden closeness but didn't back down. "You're so arg." Her face reddened a bit, like she wasn't sure if she was annoyed or flustered. "I can't tell if this is some new prank." Naruto shrugged, stepping away. "Relax, Sakura, I'm not plotting anything against you." A moment later, Ino bounded up, ponytail swaying. "Forehead, you pest, don't hog Naruto all to yourself." Then she turned to Naruto, smirking. "You sure you're ready for this practice exam? You better not embarrass yourself." Sakura's eyebrow twitched. "Excuse me, Ino pig, I was talking to him first." Naruto held back a chuckle, noticing how both girls seemed eager for his attention. The old him would have been over the moon at the idea that two of the prettiest girls in class were fighting over him, but now he was more amused than anything. A side benefit to not being a clueless idiot, he thought. "I'll be just fine, so, both of you can watch carefully." He walked off, leaving them to glare at each other. Behind him, he heard Ino hiss, "What's with him lately? He's changed." Sakura just scoffed in agreement. But there was no malice in their words. Only intrigue. Naruto smirked. "Let them wonder." Midday practice exam arena. Iruka stood at the front, calling pairs of students to test basic taijutsu sparring, target practice with shuriken, and demonstration of the clone jutsu. Naruto was paired with Kiba, who stepped into the ring barking orders at Akamaru, perched on top of his head. "Let's go, Naruto," Kiba boasted, punching his fists together. "Hope you're ready to lose your lunch." Naruto gave a lazy grin. "Don't choke, dog boy." The insult wasn't the typical brash, clueless jab. It was sharper, more confident. Kiba's face darkened. "Akamaru, come on." Within seconds, Kiba rushed forward, fists flying. Naruto shifted, letting his body move in a fluid dance. He sidestepped the first punch, eyes narrowed in concentration. Another blow came at him from the side, and he simply slid away, using minimal effort. Kiba's frustration grew as every strike missed. The crowd of classmates watched with wide eyes. "What the hell's gotten into him?" Shikamaru muttered from the sidelines. "Move, Naruto," Sakura shouted, half concerned, half excited. Naruto inhaled. He felt that hum of power in his veins. But he didn't need it. A well-timed block, a quick twist, and he sent Kiba sprawling to the dirt. Kiba's momentum flipped him over, face first into the ground. The entire class went silent. Iruka frowned. "That was an impressive counter, Naruto. Nicely done. Kiba, you all right?" Kiba leapt up, flustered. "I'm fine." He dusted himself off, but he stared at Naruto with something akin to shock. Everyone else exchanged looks. They'd never seen Naruto so precise. So calm. Naruto didn't even gloat. He simply put his hands in his pockets. Next. For a moment, Iruka didn't know how to respond. Then he shook his head, forced a smile, and moved on, calling the next match. Meanwhile, a few yards away, Sasuke stood with his arms crossed, eyes glued on Naruto. There was an undeniable spark of challenge there. Mid-afternoon academy rooftop. Naruto needed some air. The unusual stares from his classmates were stifling. He slipped away to the rooftop, where laundry lines and old training dummies were haphazardly laid out. He stared off at the Hokage monument, remembering how he once painted goofy graffiti over the stone faces. He'd been so desperate for attention back then. Now he only craved strength and the means to protect himself from future betrayal. But as he contemplated his next steps, he felt a presence. Soft footsteps approached behind him. "I saw your fight with Kiba," came a gentle voice. "Hinata." He turned, noticing how the sunlight glowed around her. She held her hands in front of her, eyes downcast. "You were amazing," she whispered, voice trembling slightly. He gave a quiet laugh. "Thanks. Kiba's got some moves, but he leaves plenty of openings." She peeked up at him, cheeks still carrying that pink hue. "Naruto-kun, are you feeling okay? You seem different." He inhaled, considering how to answer. "I guess a lot's changed in my head recently," he said simply. "I don't want people to walk all over me anymore." Hinata nodded, then fiddled with the hem of her jacket again. It took her a moment to build courage to speak. I don't think anyone should walk all over you. You've always deserved respect." Her words touched a raw spot he tried to hide behind bravado. He took a step closer, noticing how her breath caught. Without overthinking it, without stumbling like the old Naruto, he lifted her chin gently so her eyes met his. "Thanks for believing in me, Hinata." Her face went scarlet at his touch, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she stared into his eyes, warmth radiating between them. For a moment, Naruto considered leaning in. He could feel the electric tension, an odd desire to show her how much her support mattered. But he decided to let this moment simmer, no need to overwhelm her right now. Still, he smirked, letting his hand drop. "You ever want to train with me, just ask. I'd love a partner who isn't afraid to be herself." Hinata's eyes darted away. I'd like that." They stood in silence for a beat. The wind fluttered the clothes on the nearby line, the distant shouts of students practicing echoed below. In that instant, something about Hinata's unwavering kindness reminded him that not everyone in Konoha had turned against him in the future. But enough had. He shoved that memory aside, focusing on the present. Then, to break the silence, he gave her a playful nudge on the shoulder and headed for the stairwell door. "See you around." She stood there, hand pressed to her cheek, trying to sort out the swirl of emotions he'd left in his wake. Evening streets of Konoha. Dusk settled over the village, painting the streets in vibrant oranges and reds. Naruto headed toward Ichiraku Ramen, stomach growling. Some habits would never change, like his love of good ramen. As he turned a corner, he accidentally bumped into someone. Arms flailed. He reached out reflexively, and for a split second, he let a tiny spark of his psychic power guide his movement. The other person didn't fall instead. She ended up leaning precariously into his chest. Sorry, came an indignant yelp. Watch where you're. Naruto blinked, finding himself face to face with Ino Yamanaka. Her arms were braced against his chest, her lips parted in surprise. He smirked, suddenly aware of how close they were. Oh, hey, Ino, she flushed. She cleared her throat, stepping back, hands brushing imaginary dust off her outfit. What were you doing, walking around like a zombie? I was just hungry, he said with an easy shrug. Gonna grab some ramen. You can join if you want. A blink of surprise crossed her face, as though she'd never considered actually hanging out with Naruto for fun. But that confusion didn't last long. She flipped her ponytail, adopting a confident grin. Sure, I guess I can spare some time. They walked side by side through the bustling market district, the scents of grilled fish, spices, and sweet pastries drifting by. Ino kept glancing at Naruto, eyes narrowed like she was trying to solve a puzzle. He ignored her scrutiny until they reached the small ramen stand. Inside, Chuki beamed. Naruto. Long time no see. The usual. Naruto slid onto a stool. You bet, old man. Extra pork, though. Ino settled beside him. I'll have miso ramen, she said politely, still stealing glances at Naruto. He took the time to study her in return. Ino had always been proud, outspoken. She and Sakura used to butt heads constantly, especially over Sasuke. But Naruto noticed something else. There was a certain spark in her eyes when she was intrigued. And right now, it was aimed straight at him. She finally crossed her arms, leaning forward. So, you're not gonna explain how you got so good at taijutsu out of nowhere? Or are you just a natural genius hiding behind that orange jumpsuit? Naruto snorted. A guy can't step up his game without it being some kind of big mystery. Look, I've been in your class forever. You were never this. He locked eyes with her. Maybe I got tired of being looked down on, so I decided to show my real capabilities. She held his gaze. He could tell she was trying to figure out if he was lying or bragging. She said eventually. Well, it's about time. A small smile tugged at her lips. You know, if you really have some hidden talent, then, maybe you're not the dead last after all. He chuckled. Glad you approve, Princess Ino. Her cheeks turned pink at the teasing. Before she could respond with a snarky retort, Chuki slid 2 steaming bowls of ramen in front of them. The conversation paused as they ate. The comfortable hush broken only by the slurp of noodles and the chatter of other customers. After the meal, Naruto stood, tossing some coins on the counter. Ino wiped her mouth, still looking mildly flustered. He gave a playful grin. Maybe next time, you can tell me about your new jutsu or something. If I'm not too busy improving my so-called hidden talents. She rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her amusement. Sure, Naruto, maybe I will. Then, something emboldened her. She leaned in, pressing a quick, impulsive kiss to his cheek. Catch you later, she said, turning on her heel to stride out with a bit of flourish. Naruto touched his cheek, heart pounding, but he managed to keep a casual smirk. So that's how it's gonna be, huh? Night. Naruto's apartment. He closed the door behind him, flicking on the single overhead light. The moment of playful warmth he'd felt with Ino dissolved as he recalled the bigger picture. The betrayal in his past life, the chance he'd been given to rewrite everything. A swirl of conflicting emotions churned in his gut. He slipped off his sandals and flopped onto the bed. Staring at the dark ceiling, he began to think about the scroll of seals. The old him had stolen it under Mizuki's manipulation, desperate to pass the exam. That fiasco ended with him learning the shadow clone jutsu. This time, he already knew shadow clones. More importantly, he had an arsenal of psychic abilities if push came to shove. But the scroll might hold more secrets I can use. His mind buzzed. He'd take it, but he wouldn't let anyone frame him for a crime or manipulate him like last time. A flicker of bitterness reminded him that the village, for all its celebrations of him as a hero, had been swift to turn on him in the old timeline. He wouldn't let history repeat itself. I'll be the one to decide my own fate. He closed his eyes. A quiet hum built in the air. Loose scraps of paper on his desk rustled in an unseen current, drawn to an invisible force. Naruto let the gentle wave of power course through him, the entire room resonating with a silent thrum. For once, he didn't feel anxious or uncertain about tomorrow. He felt powerful, and maybe just a little dangerous. Late-night Hokage's office. Across the village, the third Hokage stood by the window, pipe in hand, gazing into the moonlit streets of Konoha. He exhaled a plume of smoke, a worried frown creasing his aged features. Something felt off. He couldn't place it exactly, but his instincts told him there was a disturbance in the flow of chakra around the village. The constant watch he'd kept on Naruto, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, should have shown normal fluctuations. But recently, there had been strange spikes in the boy's energy. Spikes that didn't feel like the Kyuubi's chakra at all. He turned to the desk where an old crystal ball sat. Tomorrow, the final academy exams would begin. He planned to keep an eye on Naruto to see exactly what was unfolding in that boy's life. If something was changing within Naruto, he needed to know. Dawn Academy Practice Yard. The next day arrived quickly. The sun blazed overhead, and everyone gathered for the final graduation exam. Nervous chatter filled the air. Some kids boasted about how they'd pass with flying colors, others paced anxiously. Naruto lounged near the back, feigning boredom. One by one, names were called to demonstrate the clone jutsu. Among them, Naruto finally heard Naruto Uzumaki. He stepped into the small, makeshift exam room. Iruka and Mizuki waited with clipboards. Iruka offered an encouraging smile, though Naruto noticed a hint of concern in his eyes. Mizuki, however, smiled in a way that sent an uneasy chill down Naruto's spine. The memory of Mizuki's betrayal was still fresh in his mind, even if Mizuki himself had no idea of Naruto's knowledge. "All right, Naruto," Iruka said, clearing his throat. "Perform the clone jutsu." Naruto brought his hands together in a seal. In his old timeline, he'd done miserably at this stage. But now, with his sharpened mind and residual knowledge, replicating a standard clone was child's play. He molded his chakra carefully, letting a small fract ion of his psychic energy mix in for stability. In a flash of smoke, 4 perfect clones appeared, solid illusions, matching him exactly, none of that usual pale, sickly look. Iruka's eyes widened. "That's really well done." Mizuki nodded, forced smile on his lips. "Indeed, almost perfect, Naruto." Naruto took his forehead protector from Iruka's outstretched hand, slipping it around his head with casual confidence. He could sense Mizuki's cunning swirling beneath the surface, searching for a way to exploit him. "Your plan to use me isn't going to work this time," Naruto thought. He thanked Iruka and walked out, ignoring Mizuki's forced congratulations. Outside, some of the other newly minted genin congratulated each other. Sakura waved, beaming with relief that she passed. Ino, already wearing her headband around her waist, offered Naruto a grin. Kiba sulked slightly. Apparently, Naruto's new skill was still on his mind, but he gave a short nod of acknowledgement anyway. Sasuke stood off in the corner, arms crossed, giving Naruto a stoic once-over. Naruto recognized these old patterns. Sasuke's silent rivalry, Sakura's relief, Ino's subtle attempts to grab his attention. But everything felt different. The entire class was shifting focus onto him. That night would be the moment Mizuki tried to trick him into stealing the scroll of seals, except this time, Naruto planned to twist it around. "I'm not your puppet, Mizuki. Let's see how you like being used." Twilight Naruto's apartment. Just as expected, Mizuki showed up on Naruto's doorstep. "Naruto," he said in a hushed tone, a conspiratorial smile plastered on his face. "I have a special mission for you, something that could really help you grow stronger and impress Iruka-sensei. But it's, well, secret." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah, and why me?" Mizuki leaned in. "Because I see your potential, Naruto. I've seen how you've improved. If you want to become Hokage one day, you need special training, things the academy can't provide. The Scroll of Seals holds forbidden jutsu. If you learned one to impress Iruka, it would guarantee your success. Naruto forced a naive grin, channeling his old persona for a moment. Really? Forbidden jutsu, huh? Inside, he simmered with contempt at Mizuki's manipulative tone. You worthless snake. Last time, you tricked me so easily. Outwardly, he just scratched his head. So, what do I do? Mizuki smirked, thinking he had the unsuspecting kid wrapped around his finger. Meet me at the shed behind the Hokage monument after you've stolen it. We'll go over a jutsu that's perfect for you. Naruto nodded eagerly, putting on his best clueless grin. Got it. Mizuki left, confidence in every step. The moment the door closed, Naruto's smile vanished. He exhaled slowly, focusing on the hum of psychic energy thrumming beneath his skin. I'll play your game, Mizuki. But this time, I'm the one in control. Midnight Hokage residence. Sneaking into the restricted area was surprise. Ingly easy if you knew how to distract a guard or two. Naruto, using a gentle push of telekinesis, nudged a line of equipment outside to topple over, causing a loud crash. The startled guards rushed toward the commotion, leaving the corridor to the Hokage's vault briefly unattended. Naruto slipped inside, heart pounding. He spotted the large, ancient scroll sealed with protective tags. A typical Genin might have struggled to open it or break the seal. Naruto gently placed his hand on the scroll, letting that cosmic power swirl. The tags peeled away with a soft sizzle. He lifted the heavy parchment and silently marveled. The Scroll of Seals. It holds jutsu like the multi-shadow clone, the 8 trigram sealing reversal, and so much more. His eyes scanned some of the text, but he forced himself to focus. He couldn't risk being discovered here. This was just step 1. Careful footsteps approached from behind. Naruto froze, pressing himself against a stone column. A moment later, the Hokage's silhouette appeared at the far entrance, pipe in hand. Naruto's pulse skyrocketed. The old man. Gotta get out fast. He steadied his breath and concentrated. The door at the far end of the corridor swung shut with a slight telekinetic nudge, drawing the Hokage's attention away from Naruto's position. It's now or never. He bolted out the opposite exit, the scroll clutched under his arm. By the time the Hokage reopened the door, the corridor was empty, only a faint echo of rushed footsteps lingering in the halls. Shortly afterwards, near the Hokage monument, Naruto arrived at the designated spot, a small clearing behind the massive stone faces. Tall trees rustled in the moonlight. He set the scroll down, scanning the area. Mizuki should be here soon. He glanced at the forbidden techniques laid out in archaic script. 1 or 2 were particularly interesting. Shadow Clone is simpler, but there's more. He traced a finger over instructions for a sealing jutsu. It might come in handy later. A flutter of movement caught his eye. Mizuki dropped down from a high branch, landing gracefully. You got the scroll, Mizuki said, eyes shining with greedy anticipation. Good job, Naruto. Now, let me see it. Naruto feigned a grin. Sure, but I have one question. Why do you want it? Mizuki's smile twitched. Like I said, I want to help you. Cut the crap, Naruto interrupted. His voice was suddenly cold. No trace of the cheerful persona. He stood tall, the moonlight catching the sharp angle of his gaze. Tell me the truth, Mizuki. Mizuki's mask of friendliness cracked. What did you say? I'm not an idiot. You're planning something. You're not teaching me anything. Mizuki bared his teeth. You little brat. You think you can talk to me like that? Naruto shrugged. I'm guessing. You're planning to sell the scroll or hand it to some enemy for your own profit, right? Mizuki lunged, metal gleaming in his hand, a giant Fuma shuriken. But Naruto didn't flinch. He lifted a single palm. An invisible force clamped onto Mizuki's wrist, halting it mid-swing. Eyes bulging in shock, Mizuki tried to pull free. What is this? Let go. Naruto locked eyes with him, letting his annoyance fuel a small surge of power. You want the scroll so bad. Here. He jerked his free hand, and the massive parchment slid across the grass toward Mizuki's feet. But Mizuki couldn't even bend down to grab it. He was paralyzed, pinned by a telekinetic vice. What are you? Mizuki gasped, panic rising as he realized Naruto was controlling him without physically touching him. Naruto smirked. I'm the last person you want to betray. Suddenly, a figure burst into the clearing, Iruka-sensei, panting. Naruto, are you okay? Did Mizuki? He froze at the sight. Mizuki trembling in midair, Naruto's arm extended as though gripping an invisible rope. Iruka's eyes darted between them, confusion and disbelief warring on his face. Mizuki, teeth grinding, found a sliver of voice. Iruka, you have no idea what this freak is doing. He's controlling me with something. Help me. Iruka's face hardened. Don't lie to me, Mizuki. I heard enough of your conversation. You tricked Naruto into stealing the scroll of seals. Naruto flicked his wrist, sending Mizuki crashing into a tree trunk. The traitorous instructor slumped to the ground, semi-conscious. The surrounding forest was eerily quiet as leaves drifted in the moonlight. Finally, Naruto turned to Iruka. He lowered his arm, letting the telekinetic energy dissipate. For a moment, the only sound was Iruka's ragged breathing. Iruka spoke carefully. Naruto, that power, what was? He paused, then shook his head. No, that can wait. Are you hurt? Naruto swallowed, a rush of conflicting emotions swirling in him. Iruka, his first real teacher. A man who, in the old timeline, cared for him deeply. Naruto could sense the concern in his voice, the genuine worry. He exhaled, letting go of the tension in his posture. I'm fine, Iruka-sensei. Mizuki tried to set me up, so I set him up instead. Iruka nodded, glancing at Mizuki's limp form. I see that. He walked closer, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. His eyes were soft, but there was a hint of apprehension. You're very different lately. Naruto laughed quietly. I just learned not to trust people so easily, sensei. Iruka's face fell slightly. Naruto, you can trust me. He paused, noticing Naruto's stoic expression. I won't pretend I understand whatever this power is or why you're so changed. But I am on your side. A wave of nostalgia swept over Naruto. Despite everything, Iruka had always been someone he could rely on, someone who truly cared. He nodded, offering a faint smile. I appreciate that. Iruka pressed a forehead protector into Naruto's hand. You earned this today fair and square. Keep it. As for all that, he gestured vaguely to the swirl of unnatural power he'd witnessed. We'll talk later. Let's just say you saved the village a lot of trouble by taking Mizuki down. Naruto slid the headband into his pocket. A swirl of relief mingled with lingering bitterness. He hadn't told Iruka the truth about his reincarnation or the betrayal he remembered. Some secrets had to be kept until the time was right. He glanced up at the moon, letting the silence linger. I won't walk the same path as before. Not with these powers, not with this knowledge. For once, he felt a spark of hope flicker alongside his distrust. If Iruka truly stood by him, maybe not everyone in Konoha was an enemy waiting to betray him. Still, in the back of his mind, images from his old life rose like ghosts. Danzo's schemes, the suspicious looks from the council, the heartbreak of losing friends he once loved. Naruto's jaw tensed. This time, he'd be ready. He wouldn't hesitate to unleash every bit of his psychic might if they dared to turn on him again. Iruka took a step back, hoisting Mizuki's unconscious body over his shoulder. Let's go. The Hokage needs to know everything that happened. Naruto nodded, picking up the scroll of seals and following behind. The rustle of leaves enveloped them as they faded into the moonlit forest. Tomorrow, the real challenges would begin. And Naruto Uzumaki was determined to be the one holding all the cards this time around. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Seeds of Distrust. Late morning Academy Courtyard. Fresh sunlight spilled across the Academy Courtyard, illuminating newly minted genin as they milled around, chatting excitedly about the upcoming team placements. Naruto Uzumaki leaned against the trunk of an old oak tree, scanning the crowd with a calm, detached expression. In another life, he would have been bouncing on the balls of his feet, loud and anxious for whatever came next. Now he knew exactly how important these first steps would be. He turned his gaze toward the academy building, noticing Sakura and Ino already locked in a competitive stare-off on the front steps. Their argument drifted across the courtyard. You're delusional if you think Sasuke wants you on his team, Ino pig. Oh, please, forehead. I'm the obvious choice. Besides, I'm not so sure I even want Sasuke. Maybe I've got my eyes on someone else. Ino's voice lilted suggestively as she flicked her gaze in Naruto's direction. Catching him watching, she gave a tiny wave and a coy smile. Sakura whipped around, following her line of sight, and her cheeks tinted pink when she realized who Ino was hinting at. A smirk tugged at the corner of Naruto's lips. Guess my new confidence is stirring things up. He pushed away from the tree and ambled toward the entrance. The other genin cleared a slight path around him. No one wanted to get too close, not after witnessing his near-effortless takedown of Mizuki. Word traveled fast. Rumor had it Naruto had used something other than normal ninjutsu to subdue the traitorous instructor, but no one could quite explain it. A hush of superstition clung to him like a second skin. In the midst of the crowd, Hinata caught sight of him and gave a small, timid wave. Naruto nodded back. He liked the genuine warmth in her eyes, so different from the guarded or curious stares of everyone else. Listen up, everyone. Iruka-sensei's voice rang out as he strode through the main doors. Report to Classroom 1B. We'll announce teams there. Immediately, the throng of new genin funneled inside. Naruto hung back a moment, letting them all press ahead. He could sense, beneath the hum of excited chatter, the watchful gaze of the third Hokage somewhere. The old man was probably monitoring the building, either personally or via crystal ball. Naruto's lips pressed into a thin line. You want to keep an eye on me, Gigi? Fine. Keep watching. Let's see how you handle the changes this time. Midday Classroom 1B. The classroom buzzed with anticipation. Iruka stood behind a podium, scanning a list of names. Beside him, a few other Chunin staff members flipped through files. All right, Iruka announced, clearing his throat. Settle down. We'll begin team placements. Naruto sauntered in last, ignoring the pointed looks from Kiba, Shikamaru, and a handful of others who quickly took their seats. He chose a desk near the back. Team 7, Iruka began, will be Sasuke Uchiha. A predictable squeal of excitement came from the girls. Sakura Haruno. Sakura pumped her fist, shooting Ino a triumphant smirk. Ino stuck out her tongue in annoyance. And Naruto Uzumaki. The room's energy shifted. A few wide eyes turned to Naruto. Sakura's mouth dropped open in surprise. Sasuke's head lifted sharply. A fleeting scowl crossed his features. Naruto didn't react outwardly. He only shrugged. Just like before. Team 7 again. Except this time, I'm not the clueless dead last they remember. Iruka continued rattling off teams Kiba, Hinata, Shino on Team 8, Ino, Shikamaru, Shoji on Team 10, Tenten, Neji, Leon Guy's team, but Naruto barely listened. His thoughts drifted to how quickly everything was falling into place. So many events looked the same on the surface, but he was different now. Once Iruka finished, he gave a formal bow. Congratulations, everyone. Your Jonin-sensei will collect you shortly. Chairs scraped against the floor as students grouped up with their new teams. Sakura and Sasuke remained in place, both sneaking glances at Naruto as if trying to decipher his calm expression. Sakura finally mustered the nerve to speak. So, we're on the same team. Yep. Naruto's response was casual. She fidgeted. I guess we should try to get along. And train. Before Naruto could reply, Sasuke scoffed from his seat. What a drag. I suppose we'll see if you two slow me down. Naruto flicked a sidelong look at Sasuke, noticing the annoyance in his eyes. He's probably worried I'll overshadow him. A small grin formed on Naruto's lips. Don't worry, Sasuke. You'll get your chance to show off. Sasuke's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth to retort, but at that moment, Iruka stepped back to the podium. Team 7, your sensei is running a bit late. Please wait here until Kakashi Hatake arrives. Iruka-sensei, Sakura asked, isn't Kakashi Hatake that famous copy nin? The one with the Sharingan? Iruka smiled tersely. Yes, that's correct. You'll be in good hands. Naruto resisted an inward sigh. Kakashi, someone who, in his past life, had become a friend and mentor. But he stood by Naruto during the final betrayal. Naruto's memory of those last days was chaotic. He recalled Kakashi's heartbreak, his desperation to maintain peace in the village, and how that loyalty to Konoha ultimately meant Naruto stood alone. Shaking off the gloom, Naruto forced a smirk. Let's see how this Kakashi deals with me now. Late afternoon, empty classroom. Hours dragged by. The other Teams had long since left with their Jonin instructors, but Team 7 was still waiting. Sakura paced the rows of desks, scowling, occasionally shooting an exasperated look at the door. Sasuke sat by the window, arms folded, expression brooding. Naruto leaned against the blackboard, eyes half-lidded in boredom. Sakura huffed. Seriously, what kind of teacher makes us wait this long? Naruto just shrugged, though inwardly he felt a tiny ripple of impatience. He remembered Kakashi's perpetual tardiness. But in his previous life, Naruto had been too excitable to care. Now, he found it mildly disrespectful. Still, better to conserve energy than fuss. Eventually, the door slid open. A lone figure with spiky silver hair and a mask covering half his face peeked in. Yo, he seemed unconcerned by how late he was. Sakura bristled. You're our teacher. Kakashi tilted his head, eye creasing in what might have been a smile. Yep, Kakashi Hatake. Well, let's move up to the roof. Easier to talk there. Without waiting for a response, he turned on his heel. Sasuke stood immediately, looking ready to confront the tardy Jonin, but Naruto walked past, gently bumping Sasuke's shoulder in the process. Come on, no point complaining about it now. Sasuke glowered but followed. Sakura fell in line behind them, muttering under her breath about lazy instructors. Shortly after Academy rooftop, NTLE breeze ruffled Kakashi's hair as he leaned back on a railing. Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura sat on a short set of steps across from him. The sun was low in the sky, painting the horizon in warm hues. Kakashi's visible eye moved from one genin to another. Well, guess we should introduce ourselves. Likes, dislikes, dreams, that kind of thing. Sakura lifted a hand. But, sensei, you should go first so we know what to talk about. Me, Kakashi considered. My name's Kakashi Hatake. I have lots of likes and dislikes. Dreams, none I feel like sharing right now. Your turn. Sakura's face dropped. All we learned was your name. Kakashi didn't budge. Next, she sighed. Okay, my name is Sakura Haruno. I like. She cast a quick glance at Sasuke, cheeks coloring. And I dislike Ino Pig. Another glance at Naruto lingered. Well, I'm still figuring out some stuff. She fiddled with her hair. My dream. I want to become a great kunoichi and, help my teammates, I guess. Kakashi nodded and turned to Sasuke. Sasuke leaned forward, elbows on his knees. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I don't particularly like anything, and there are a lot of things I dislike. My dream isn't a dream, it's a goal. I'm going to restore my clan and, his voice dropped a notch. Kill a certain man. Sakura looked uneasy at that. Naruto watched Sasuke carefully. Same vengeance, same darkness. All right, Kakashi murmured. Naruto. Naruto paused, arms folded across his chest. He could feel Kakashi's curiosity drilling into him. Name's Naruto Uzumaki. I don't like talking about my past. Don't much care for people who betray others. He let that hang in the air before continuing. I like training, learning new jutsu, and, well, a few other things. His eyes briefly flicked to the memory of the prior evening, Ino kissing his cheek. My dream. He gave a small smirk. To become someone this village can't ignore. And to make sure nobody ever stabs me in the back again. His words hung thick in the air. Sakura shot him a confused look. And even Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Kakashi's expression was unreadable, but Naruto sensed a stir of concern. All right, Kakashi finally said, straightening. We'll begin tomorrow with a test. A test, Sakura repeated. But we already passed the academy exam. Kakashi's eye curved in a sly smile. That was just to weed out those unfit to even be considered genin. This is the real survival test. Trust me, it'll be tough and there's a high chance you'll fail. Sakura's jaw dropped. Sasuke tensed, flickers of determination crossing his face. Naruto just watched Kakashi, analyzing the older man's posture. Meet me at training ground 3 tomorrow morning. Skip breakfast if you don't want to throw up. Kakashi turned to leave, then paused. And Naruto? Naruto's eyes narrowed. Yeah, Kakashi's gaze lingered. I heard about Mizuki. Good job subduing him. But next time, be careful with how you handle your abilities. The subtle weight behind his words was clear. Kakashi knew something was unusual about Naruto's power. Naruto felt a spark of defiance. I can handle myself, sensei. Kakashi gave a short nod. We'll see tomorrow. Then he vanished, leaving only a swirl of dust and swirling leaves in his wake. Early evening streets of Konoha. Naruto ambled along the cobblestone roads, glancing at the colorful vendor stalls. The lively chatter of civi liens filled the air. Blacksmiths hawking kunai sets, a sweet dumpling shop beckoning passers-by. Typically, he'd have rushed for a steaming bowl of ramen, but tonight he felt too restless to eat. As he passed the Yamanaka flower shop, an impulse nudged him to step inside. The warm scent of fresh blooms greeted him. Ino stood behind the counter, sweeping petals off the floor. She looked up, brightening at the sight of him. Well, look who decided to drop by. Naruto Uzumaki. He gave a small nod, scanning the rows of potted plants. Figured I'd say hi. Ino brushed a stray leaf off her apron. Glad you did. So, rumor is you're on Sasuke's team, huh? She tried to sound casual, but a trace of envy laced her tone. Naruto smirked, surprised. Ino shrugged. We all thought you'd end up on a different team. She tilted her head. But you've changed a lot lately. Maybe it makes sense. He drifted closer to the counter. Jealous you're stuck with Shikamaru and Choji. She rolled her eyes. They're good friends, but, well, they're not exactly dynamic. I was kinda hoping for something more exciting. But it is what it is. Naruto reached out, plucking a small lavender flower from a nearby bucket. You like excitement, then. Her eyes flicked to his hand. I like strong, confident partners. Her lips curled in a wry smile. And you seem to have gotten confident overnight. He stepped around the counter, moving closer than a casual friend might. Think I'll revert to the shy knucklehead. He teased. Her gaze dropped briefly to his mouth, then shot back up. Not a chance. And if you do, I'll slap some sense back into you. Naruto chuckled, then set the lavender bloom lightly against her hair. Guess you'll have to keep me in line. A quick flush painted her cheeks, but she didn't move away. Instead, she let her voice drop a notch. You're not so bad at flirting now, are you? His answer was a slight smirk. Then, emboldened by that lingering memory of her kiss on his cheek, Naruto leaned in, sliding his hand around her waist. Ino exhaled in surprise, but her lips parted in a smile before he captured them in a swift, warm kiss. Her arms looped around his neck, returning the kiss with equal fervor. The heady perfume of flowers swirling around them. The stolen moment pulsed with adrenaline. For a second, Naruto's mind drifted to how bizarrely different this was from his old timeline, how unbelievably bold he felt. But he didn't shy away. When they finally broke apart, Ino's breath came in soft gasps. Her face glowed. You're full of surprises, she murmured. Naruto's hand remained at her waist, drawing lazy circles against her back. Guess I am. She laughed, eyes sparkling in the dim light. If word gets out, Sakura's gonna pop a blood vessel. Let her, Naruto said, shrugging. This is just between you and me, right? Ino smirked. For now. She teased a finger down his chest. You better keep being interesting. Don't disappoint me. Naruto pressed another quick kiss to her lips and pulled away. See you around, Ino. She watched him go, arms folded over her apron, a small, satisfied smile playing on her face. Night. Naruto's apartment. As he entered his tiny home, Naruto felt an odd mixture of contentment and tension. The stolen moment with Ino had been exhilarating, an undeniable reminder of how differently he was living this second chance. Yet the memory of the looming betrayal from his old life still kept him from fully letting down his guard. He set a cup of instant ramen to boil on the stove. While waiting, he stood by the window, gazing at the moonlit village. So far, everything's still parallel to the old timeline, except for how people treat me. But that can all change in a heartbeat. He recalled Kakashi's warning. Be careful with how you handle your abilities. The Jonin's watchful eye could become a problem. Kakashi was loyal to the Hokage. If they decided Naruto's powers were a threat, the suspicion would only grow. Naruto inhaled, focusing on that strange psychic energy coursing beneath his skin. A small spool of wire on the counter trembled, rising a few inches into the air before settling again. This ability was the game changer. He didn't need to rely solely on the nine tails or typical jutsu. Telekinesis, psychic barriers, the potential to manipulate matter on a whim. It was a trump card. The kettle whistled. He poured hot water into his ramen cup. Then slurped a bite. The savory taste calmed him, reminding him of simpler times. I'll survive Kakashi's test tomorrow, no problem. And after that, I'll see about shaping my own destiny. As he ate, a faint memory of Iruka's worried face flickered in his mind. Iruka truly cared, but even he might become a pawn of the village elders if push came to shove. A harsh determination seized Naruto's thoughts. They won't betray me this time. Or if they try, I'll be ready. He finished his meal, cleaned up, then dropped onto his bed. The weight of tomorrow's test pressed on him, but only mildly. He'd been through far worse. Dawn Training Ground 3. Naruto arrived at the quiet training field early, as instructed. Tall trees swayed along the perimeter, morning dew glistening on the grass. To one side lay a trio of wooden stumps. In front of them, a small stone slab held a pair of silver bells. He spotted Sasuke leaning against a tree, arms folded. Sakura stood nearby, yawning. I can't believe we had to skip breakfast, she muttered. Complain all you want, Sasuke said, but Sensei told us to. Naruto scanned the area for Kakashi. Not a sign of him. He shrugged, wandering over to the stone slab. The two bells gleamed in the sunlight. Same old test. In the past, Kakashi's lesson was about teamwork. Only those who worked together could get a bell. But Naruto had no intention of blindly following the script. Sakura joined him by the slab, curiosity piqued. So, do you know how this test works? Naruto considered how much to reveal. He's gonna test our ability to function as a team. If we can't work together, we fail. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Then I'll get a bell myself. If either of you slow me down, too bad. Sakura frowned. That's not exactly teamwork. Naruto snorted softly, glancing at Sasuke with mild amusement. Same arrogant jerk. We'll see how that goes, Sasuke. Hours rolled by. No Kakashi. By the time the sun was high, Sakura's stomach growled loudly. She blushed. Why is he so late again? Naruto eyed the tree line, a subtle prickle on his neck. He's probably watching us right now. Almost on cue, a puff of smoke appeared near the stumps. Kakashi strolled out, a bored look in his single visible eye. Yo, sorry. Got lost on the path of life. Sakura nearly tore her hair out. How can you be so casual? Kakashi ignored the outburst, sauntering to the stone slab. All right, kiddos. Here's the deal. He held up the two bells. You have until noon to grab a bell from me. Whoever fails to get one doesn't eat lunch. And there's only two bells. So at least one of you goes hungry. Possibly fails entirely. Sasuke tensed, eyes locking onto the silver bells. Sakura exchanged a worried glance with Naruto. Kakashi fastened the bells to his belt. We'll begin. Now. Quote. In a blink, Sasuke and Sakura darted into the forest, seeking vantage points. Naruto simply stood there, crossing his arms. Kakashi arched an eyebrow, not hiding. Naruto's lips curved in a thin smile. Why bother? We both know the test is more than just snagging a bell. Kakashi studied Naruto. Interesting. But if you're not careful, you'll fail. I won't. Naruto channeled a sliver of his psychic power, letting it ripple through the ground around him. Small pebbles rose an inch off the soil, then fell. Let's see what you can do, copy ninja. Kakas. Hai's eye flickered with alarm at the floating stones. So that rumor was true. You've got some trick up your sleeve. Something like that. Naruto crouched slightly, preparing. Don't hold back on me, sensei. Without warning, he lashed out, not with a direct punch, but with a swift wave of telekinesis aimed at Kakashi's legs. Kakashi felt the tug and leapt away, barely avoiding getting swept off his feet. Impressive, Kakashi murmured, sliding a hand into his kunai pouch. He vanished in a burst of speed, reappearing behind Naruto with a slash. Naruto pivoted, arms up. A flicker of mental force deflected the kunai, sending sparks flying. Their brief exchange was enough to shatter the morning's stillness. Birds took flight from the nearby branches. Sasuke and Sakura, hidden among the leaves, gaped at the scene. What was that? Sakura thought, heart pounding. Naruto's not even weaving hand seals. Sasuke's jaw tightened, eyes laser-focused on Naruto's outlandish display of strength. He's pushing Kakashi back. Forest edge Sakura's paw. Sakura pressed her back against a tree trunk, struggling to steady her breathing. She caught glimpses of Naruto's fight. Psychic powers, telekinesis. None of it made sense. He's changed so much in just a few days. Or maybe he's been hiding it all along. A swirl of emotions flooded her. Confusion, envy, curiosity. The Naruto she remembered from the academy was clumsy and brash. But the boy in that clearing was calm, collected, and controlling the battlefield with ease. Focus, Sakura, she whispered. Her mission was to work as a team, but how can I help? Movement in the corner of her eye made her tense. Sasuke had emerged on a branch above, scanning for an opening to attack. He met her eyes briefly, then nodded. Despite his usual arrogance, he seemed to acknowledge that they might need to coordinate. She nodded back, swallowing her nerves. We'll do this together. Clearing Naruto versus Kakashi. Dust swirled as Naruto and Kakashi exchanged rapid strikes. Kakashi tested Naruto's reflexes with feints and quick jabs, but each time, Naruto used small bursts of telekinesis to offset the Jonin's advantage. Instead of blocking physically, he nudge Kakashi's wrist off target or twist the ground beneath his feet. Kakashi's mind raced. He's reading my moves. No, he's manipulating them. This is more than just good taijutsu. He flickered through a quick series of hand seals. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. A surge of flame burst toward Naruto. Rather than dodge, Naruto raised both palms, focusing. The fireball curved in midair, as if shoved sideways by an invisible hand. Scorching the grass several feet away. Smoke billowed, and Kakashi appeared behind it, kunai at the ready only to find Naruto flipping backward with inhuman grace. He's so calm, Kakashi noted. I barely see any typical ninja moves, just raw mental power. Naruto landed, sliding across the grass. You know, this would be easier if I just went all out. Kakashi adjusted his Hitai-8, preparing to reveal the Sharingan if necessary. Arrogance can get you killed. Maybe. Naruto smirked. Or maybe I'm just stating facts. He tensed, ready to unleash a heavier tele. Kinetic wave when Sasuke burst from the tree line behind Kakashi, hands flying through seals. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. A massive torrent of flame roared toward Kakashi's back. The Jonin quickly whirled, raising his own chakra to counter. He slid to the side, but the wide arc of flame singed the ends of his hair. In that split second, Naruto capitalized. He lunged forward, telekinetical. Gripping the ground beneath Kakashi's feet, forcing it to ripple. Kakashi's balance wavered, and a second wave of mental force yanked at the bells on his belt. But Kakashi was no rookie. He twisted, letting his belt slip off entirely. Flipping backward as the belt soared into Naruto's outstretched hand. Naruto grinned, checking the small loop. But the bells were gone. In the confusion, Kakashi had snatched them back, holding them between his fingers. Nice try, Kakashi said smoothly, landing in a crouch. Sasuke landed next to Naruto. TCH, so close. Kinda sloppy on your part, though, Naruto teased Kakashi. Didn't expect us to coordinate. Kakashi's eye curved. Who said you two are coordinating? He flicked a glance past them. What about Sakura? Deeper in the field, Sakura stood near the edge, heart drumming in her chest. She'd planned to act as backup, but the fight moved too quickly. She watched Kakashi's every shift, looking for that one opening. There, Kakashi's focus was momentarily on Naruto and Sasuke. Sakura sprinted forward. If she could grab the bells while Kakashi was preoccupied. Kakashi's stance changed in an instant, like he sensed her presence. Before she could even blink, he vanished from her path. She gasped, twisting around, but a sudden rush of cold steel pressed lightly against her throat. A kunai. You hesitated, Kakashi said softly from behind her. Big mistake. In the next moment, Sasuke hurled a barrage of shuriken at Kakashi, forcing him to release Sakura and dodge. She stumbled forward, breath ragged. Naruto used the distraction to dash in again, telekinetic force flaring. Kakashi ducked under Naruto's strike and sent out a lightning-fast punch. Naruto tried to deflect it mentally, but Kakashi's physical speed outpaced Naruto's reaction. The blow connected with Naruto's ribs, sending him skidding back. A crackle of pain flooded Naruto's side, but he steadied himself quickly. He's not the average Jonin, this is Kakashi, after all. Sasuke lunged again, fists flying. Kakashi countered easily, grabbing the Uchiha by the wrist and flipping him to the ground. In that brief chaos, Sakura charged from the side, aiming a kunai at Kakashi's bell hand. Kakashi smirked. She's got guts, but she's predictable. He twisted sideways, letting her momentum carry her past him. Sasuke used the opportunity to sweep at Kakashi's legs, but Kakashi leapt over it. He twisted in midair only to catch a glimpse of Naruto's outstretched palm again. A powerful invisible blast hammered Kakashi, driving him into a nearby tree trunk with a dull thud. Sakura's eyes widened. She'd barely glimpsed the distortion of air from Naruto's strange ability. Kakashi slumped slightly, but he still held the bells tight. A tense silence settled over the training ground. Kakashi panted, studying the 3 genin arrayed around him. They're forcing me to stay on guard. That's impressive for fresh graduates. Naruto straightened, ignoring the ache in his ribs. Time's ticking, sensei. We could do this all day. Kakashi noticed Sasuke's furious expression. His pride was stung by how close they'd come without success. Sakura's face was a mix of determination and nerves. And Naruto? Naruto wore a look of cool confidence, as if none of this worried him. A gust of wind rustled the leaves above. Just before noon, training ground clearing. They'd been at it for hours. The morning sun climbing overhead. Each attempt to snatch a bell ended with Kakashi's last-second evasion. Despite Naruto's psychic advantage and Sasuke's skill, Kakashi's experience shone through. At last, Kakashi raised a hand, calling for a pause. Time. He dangled the bells with a small jingle, expression as calm as ever. We're done. Sakura's face fell. So, none of us got a bell. Sasuke clenched his fists. Damn it. Naruto eyed Kakashi, half expecting a trick. So, we fail. Kakashi let the bells drop into his pouch. Under normal circumstances, yes. But you did something interesting today. He gestured for them to gather near the wooden stumps. Sakura's stomach growled loudly, making her turn bright red. Kakashi set a bento box on the stump. You all attempted to coordinate at certain points, which was good. But your synergy is off. You're each strong individually, especially you, Naruto. He gave Naruto a measured look. But as a team, you're lacking. Sasuke bristled. We'll get better. Kakashi's expression softened. Well, guess what? I won't fail you. Yet. Sakura's mouth dropped open. We passed. Kakashi shrugged. Call it a conditional pass. You'll still need to prove yourselves. But you showed enough potential that I don't see a reason to send you back to the academy. A relieved sigh escaped Sakura. Sasuke's posture relaxed slightly, though he tried not to show it. Naruto kept his gaze steady on Kakashi. In the old timeline, Kakashi hammered the idea of teamwork by tying me to a stump. This time, we never reached that point. Kakashi continued, however, if you plan to survive as shinobi, you need to trust each other. All of you. He glanced at Sasuke. Even when you have personal goals. Sasuke refused to meet his eye. Sakura fiddled with her kunai pouch, feeling both relief and guilt for not performing better. Then Kakashi's tone shifted. One more thing. That power of yours, Naruto, it's not standard ninjutsu, is it? Naruto's jaw tightened. Sakura and Sasuke both turned to look at him. Kakashi went on, voice gentle but firm. I won't cry if you don't want to explain. But be aware others will ask questions. They already are. Naruto exhaled slowly. I'll handle it. Kakashi nodded. Fine. We'll meet tomorrow for our first real mission. I'll see how you do with simpler tasks. Dismissed. Noon beneath the training ground trees. Sakura practically collapsed against a tree trunk, rubbing her aching arms. I'm so hungry, she whined. Sasuke muttered something about going to train alone. He gave Naruto a sidelong glare. Next time, don't get in my way with your weird jutsu. Naruto merely smirked. Keep up, and you won't have to complain. Sasuke bristled, but instead of starting an argument, he turned sharply and headed off into the forest. Sakura sighed. You guys are already at each other's throats. This is going to be a long ride. Naruto shrugged, fiddling with a loose thread on his sleeve. He's competitive. Let him sulk. Sakura mustered a small smile. She eyed Naruto carefully, curiosity evident. Hey, that ability, are you sure it's safe for you to use? Naruto's gaze flicked to her, guarded. Why wouldn't it be? She bit her lip. I don't know. It just felt strange. Like you were warping the air or something. He exhaled, letting a hint of sincerity into his tone. Don't worry, it won't hurt me, or you, unless I want it to. Sakura's brows knitted. That's kind of scary, Naruto. He forced a grin. Only if you think I'd use it on you. She hesitated. Then she gave a half smile. You're right, I guess. I should be glad you're on our side. Her stomach growled again, and she flushed. Naruto chuckled. Go get some food, Sakura. She nodded, pushing off the tree. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. As she walked away, she paused, looking back at him over her shoulder. By the way, good work out there. Thanks for trying to coordinate with me. Naruto inclined his head. Same to you. A shy smile tugged at her lips. And she headed off. Naruto watched her go, thinking how different this was from the old days when she barely gave him the time of day. Still, a small coil of bitterness remained. In him memories of heartbreak were not so easily dispelled. Afternoon Hokage's office. High above the village, in the Hokage's dimly lit office, the third Hokage sat behind a cluttered desk. Several advisors and Chunin stood around, discussing the day's developments. One Chunin was giving a report about the new Genin teams, and Hitaki Kakashi has decided to accept Team 7. However, there's a matter of concern regarding Uzumaki Naruto. The Hokage nodded slowly, steepling his fingers. Yes, I sensed it as well. His chakra signatures have shifted oddly. How did he fare in Kakashi's test? The Chunin hesitated. He demonstrated an unknown form of power. Kakashi describes it as a kind of telekinesis, no hand seals, no visible signs of typical ninjutsu. He can deflect attacks, move objects, even manipulate people's positions to some extent. One of the advisors, Homura, frowned. That could be extremely dangerous, Lord Hokage. We already have concerns about the 9 tails sealed within him. Kaharu, another elder, nodded. If he grows too powerful, we risk a repeat of the past, or worse. The Hokage closed his eyes, recalling Naruto's bright smile from years ago, the lonely boy who overcame so much adversity. I won't make decisions based on fear alone. Naruto is a loyal leaf shinobi. Danzo, lurking near the edge of the room, finally spoke, his tone as cold as ever. That loyalty is not guaranteed, Hiruzen. Power corrupts, and with the demon fox inside him, plus this new ability, he may become a threat Konoha cannot control. The third Hokage opened his eyes, gaze hardening. I will speak with Naruto directly if needed. For now, he remains under Kakashi's supervision. Let's see how this develops. Danzo didn't argue, but the disapproval in his single visible eye was clear. I hope you won't regret your leniency. With that, the discussion ended. The Hokage waved them out, exhaling a cloud of pipe smoke once they left. He walked to the window, looking down at the village. Naruto, what exactly have you become? Late afternoon training ground 3 aftermath. Naruto lingered in the empty field long after Sasuke and Sakura left. The breeze picked up, carrying the scent of pine. He crouched by the stump, tracing the cut marks left behind by countless tests over the years. With a slow breath, he recalled the final, desperate hours of his old life, pinned down, betrayed by the very people he'd once saved. Danzo's face, twisted in triumph at subduing the 9 tails Jinchuriki. Another memory. Kakashi looking torn, guilt twisting his features as the village's top brass forced Naruto's exile. A rustle of leaves drew him back to the present. He rose, turning toward the sound. I knew you'd still be here, came a voice. It was Hinata, her white eyes wide with something between admiration and worry. I saw everyone else leave, but Naruto softened his stance. You don't have to explain. It's good to see you, Hinata. She stepped closer, glancing around nervously as if expecting ambush. I heard that the test was dangerous. Are you okay? He shrugged. I'm fine. Just a few bruises. Kakashi's no joke, but we managed. Hinata's hands fidgeted at the hem of her jacket. That's good. She inhaled shakily. And Naruto-kun, your power, everyone's talking about it. They say it's unnatural. Some are scared. His eyes narrowed slightly. Are you scared? Her cheeks reddened. And no, I'm worried for you. If the elders think you're too dangerous, they might. She cut herself off, not wanting to voice the possibility of the village turning on him. A wave of warmth spread through Naruto's chest. He stepped closer, gently brushing a strand of dark hair from Hinata's face. You're worried they'll treat me like an outcast. She nodded, eyes bright with concern. Or worse, I hate to see you hurt. Naruto let his guard slip momentarily, sincerity softening his usually cool tone. Hinata, I appreciate it. But I'm not going to let them walk all over me. Not anymore. She bit her lip. Just promise you'll be careful. A faint smile curved his lips. I promise. Her gaze fluttered down, and for a moment, he considered drawing her into a kiss just like he had with Ino. But Hinata's gentle disposition made him hesitate. He sensed that while she might secretly want it, she'd also be overwhelmed. Instead, he stepped forward and wrapped an arm around her shoulders in a warm side embrace. She gasped quietly, then relaxed against him, resting her head near his chest. His heart thudded in a steady rhythm, comforting in its simplicity. Thanks for checking on me, he murmured. Hinata nodded, letting the moment linger. Soft sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across them. In the hush of the training ground, it felt like the rest of the village was far away. Sunset bridge over the Konoha River. Later that day, Naruto found himself wandering. His feet carried him to a small wooden bridge spanning the clear waters of the Konoha River. The colors of dusk painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, reflected in the gently rippling current below. He leaned against the railing, letting the evening breeze cool his face. Thoughts churned in his mind. The suspicious stares from some villagers, Danzo's potential scheming, Kakashi's scrutiny, the tenderness of Hinata's concern, and the electric spark of his earlier kiss with Ino. This second chance is full of possibilities, but also full of risks. He felt a subtle prickle of chakra behind him. Turning, he met the gaze of Sasuke Uchiha, who stood at the other end of the bridge. Hands in his pockets, Sasuke walked forward, stopping a few feet away. What are you doing here? Naruto shrugged, turning his attention back to the water. None of your business. You followed me. Sasuke gave an irritated grunt. I wasn't following you. I was just thinking. He leaned on the railing, gaze fixed on the rushing river. We almost had those bells. If you didn't keep overshadowing me with that, whatever it is you do, I could have taken them. A small smirk tugged at Naruto's lips. If you say so. Sasuke's fists clenched at his sides. Don't get cocky, Naruto. You're not the only one with hidden power. Quote. Naruto sensed the swirl of resentment and ambition that fueled Sasuke. He recalled how that same ambition had led Sasuke down a dark path before seeking Orochimaru's power, eventually turning on the village. Look, Naruto said, voice unusually calm. If you want to beat me, train harder. I'm not your enemy, but I won't hold back for your sake. Sasuke glowered at him. We'll see who surpasses whom. With that, Sasuke turned on his heel and strode away, the tension between them crackling in the air. Naruto watched his retreating back, an odd mix of empathy and annoyance stirring within him. He's still fixated on power and revenge. Will anything change that? Nightfall Training Ground 7, secluded area. Sometime later, Naruto made his way to a quiet, lesser-used training spot near the western edge of the village. Stars dotted the night sky, and the moon provided gentle illumination. He stood in the center of a clearing, focusing on the sunset. Ion of psychic energy thrumming in his core. With measured breaths, he raised one hand, palm outward. A faint shimmer danced in the air, swirling like invisible threads. Slowly, he lifted a large stone from the ground, hovering it chest high without touching it. A swirl of emotion flickered through him. Pride, because he was mastering a power no other shinobi had. Rage, remembering how helpless he'd felt in his previous life. Longing, for the acceptance he once foolishly believed in. His concentration slipped. The stone wobbled in the air. With a deep inhale, he channeled his anger memories of Danzo's mocking face. The council's cold verdict, the way certain so-called friends turned their backs. He poured that fury into his psychic field, and the stone rocketed upward with violent force, smashing through a tree branch before plunging back down. Crash! The branch splintered, leaves raining down. Naruto stood there, panting, fists clenched. "That's quite the display," came a familiar voice from the darkness. Naruto whipped around, adrenaline spiking. Standing at the edge of the clearing was Kakashi, hands in his pockets. He masked his presence completely. "I didn't sense him. How long were you watching?" Naruto asked, tone clipped. Kakashi stepped forward, gaze solemn. "Long enough. You're pushing yourself. And you're angry." Naruto forced his posture to relax. "Does it matter?" Kakashi studied him, the silver-haired Jonin's posture unthreatening. "We're a team now, Naruto. If something's weighing on you, it affects us all." A hollow laugh escaped Naruto. "What do you want me to say? That I have trust issues? That maybe I don't believe in Konoha's big talk about loyalty anymore?" Kakashi's eye flickered with sympathy. "I'm not asking you to bare your soul. But I need to know if you plan to betray the village." Quote, Naruto's lips curled into a sneer. "Seriously? The village that treated me like a monster? The same village whose council might decide I'm too dangerous to live?" Kakashi didn't deny it. "That's what I'm worried about, yeah." A charged silence stretched. The night wind rustled the leaves. Finally, Naruto spoke softly. "I have no intention of destroying Konoha if that's what you're implying. I just won't let anyone control me ever again." Kakashi nodded slowly. "I see. You've got a chip on your shoulder, Naruto, and I won't pretend I understand why. But, if you're serious about staying a shinobi of this village, you need to be careful. Danzo, the elders, they'll be watching. They fear what they don't understand." Naruto snorted. "Let them watch. I'm not helpless." Kakashi sighed. "I realize that. Look, it's late. Just remember that sometimes, you can rely on teammates for support." Naruto turned away, letting his gaze roam the shattered branch. "Teamwork, huh?" Kakashi stepped back into the shadows, voice drifting as he departed. "You don't have to do it alone." Soon, the clearing was empty except for Naruto and the fragments of wood on the ground. He stared at them, a tightness in his chest. Part of him wanted to trust Kakashi, to believe in the possibility of a different future. But the memory of betrayal loomed large, feeding his suspicions. Eventually, he spun on his heel and made his way home under the glow of the moon. Midnight. Naruto's apartment. Naruto entered his dimly lit room, exhaustion creeping in. Despite the punishing training and mental strain, sleep didn't come easily. He lay in bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. Flashes of the day's events flickered across his mind. The intense bell test, the fleeting kiss with Ino, Hinata's concern, Sasuke's brooding challenge, and Kakashi's final words about relying on teammates. He sat up abruptly, glancing at his reflection in the small mirror on the bedside table. His eyes looked both young and old at the same time, blue irises tinted with a harder edge than they should have for a newly graduated genin. "Kakashi, you say I can rely on teammates, but I've seen how easily allies turn to enemies when power or fear is involved." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. Perhaps he was too jaded. Perhaps he was right. Either way, he couldn't let his guard down. If he learned anything from his future memory, it was that the line between friend and foe could dissolve in an instant. The faint hum of psychic energy buzzed at the base of his skull, comforting and ominous all at once. He was a living paradox carrying the 9 tails inside him, plus this bizarre Esper power. If the village realized how strong I could become, would they try to eliminate me first? A resolute calm settled over him. "I'll keep training, keep my relationships close but my eyes open. If it comes down to it, I won't hesitate to defend myself even if it means going against those who call themselves my allies." Yet somewhere deeper, a fragile hope lingered. Maybe, just maybe, things can be different this time. Naruto turned off the small lamp, plunging the apartment into darkness. As he closed his eyes, the swirl of possibilities lulled him into a restless sleep, dreams haunted by echoes of betrayal and flickers of unexpected warmth from the new bonds forming around him. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Betrayal takes root. Late morning. Hokage's office. Naruto stood in the Hokage's office, arms folded as he tried not to yawn. Team 7 had been summoned for their first official missions, and to Naruto's annoyance, they were all menial D-rank chores. Stacking crates, walking dogs, weeding gardens. In his previous life, he'd accepted it grudgingly. But now, with his knowledge and power, it felt like a waste of time. Sasuke was equally irritated, glaring at the old man behind the desk. Sakura, for her part, looked resigned, and Kakashi remained unreadable, flipping through mission reports with his usual laziness. The third Hokage exhaled a ring of smoke from his pipe. I understand D-rank missions may seem trivial, but it's standard procedure for new genin to build teamwork and discipline. Naruto rolled his eyes. Teamwork and discipline, huh? I can do that in my sleep. A fleeting sternness crossed the Hokage's face. Naruto, I'm aware you've grown, beyond expectations. But no one is exempt from our village's structure. Besides, he added, gentling his tone, I hear you three still have some rough edges to work out. Sasuke snorted quietly, but said nothing. Kakashi closed the mission scroll with a soft snap. Lord Hokage, if that's all, we'll get started. As the group turned to leave, the Hokage called after Naruto, stay a moment. Sakura and Sasuke exchanged quick glances. Kakashi gave a small nod, ushering the other two outside. Naruto lingered, meeting the third Hokage's gaze head-on. The old man set his pipe aside, leaning forward on his desk. Naruto, I've been hearing various reports. You've demonstrated an ability none of our records explain. Naruto's posture went rigid. Let me guess, some people think I'm a threat. The Hokage's eyes softened. My job is to keep the village safe. If you've somehow awakened a new power, I need to ensure it won't harm you or your comrades. A beat passed in silence. Naruto forced himself to breathe evenly. In his previous life, he'd have trusted Hiruzen implicitly. Now, old scars kept him wary. I can control it, and I'm not aiming to hurt anyone in Konoha. The Hokage studied his face, then sighed. I believe you for now. Just understand, the council may be less understanding. Danzo, especially. Naruto's lips curled slightly. Danzo should worry about himself. Be careful, Naruto, the third Hokage warned, rising from his seat. I do care about your well-being, and I don't want paranoia to force rash decisions on either side. Keep up with your missions, be a good teammate, and try not to stir more suspicion. Naruto gave a curt nod. Understood. He turned on his heel and walked out, mindful of the watchful eyes likely hidden behind every corner. Late morning streets of Konoha. Team 7 trudged through the marketplace. Mission scroll in hand. Sakura read it aloud, face twitching. We have to find and chase down an old lady's cat, again. Sasuke muttered, I'm not doing that. Naruto faked a bright grin. Oh, come on, guys. This is the pinnacle of shinobi work. We might as well call ourselves the elite cat hunting unit. Even Sakura had to stifle a laugh at his sarcastic delivery. Kakashi strolled along behind them, his nose buried in a small orange book. You'd be surprised how a simple mission can teach valuable lessons, he quipped, not looking up. Sasuke responded with an angry grunt and took the lead. The four of them headed toward the rundown district where the elderly client claimed her cat liked to roam. City outskirts, overgrown alley. Pissed. Over there, Sakura whispered, pointing at the black and white cat perched on a stack of crates. The feline's eyes glinted with mischief as it locked onto Naruto's approaching form. Come on, kitty, Naruto crooned, rolling his eyes at how ridiculous he sounded. The cat hissed and bolted. Sasuke dashed after it, leaping from crate to crate in pursuit. Sakura circled around to cut off escape. Naruto, on a whim, let a subtle flicker of telekinesis shift a stray plank of wood, blocking the cat's path for a split second. The cat turned, confused, and Sasuke tackled it. Got it. He lifted the squirming feline by the scruff, looking profoundly unimpressed. Mission complete, Kakashi said dryly, flipping a page in his book. Sasuke glanced sideways at Naruto. He'd noticed something push that plank, but said nothing. Noon back at the Hokage's tower. An old lady squealed in delight as the cat was returned to her arms. The creature looked positively miserable, but no one sympathized, except maybe Sakura, who cooed at its cuteness. So, Kakashi said to the Hokage, that's another D rank done. The third Hokage nodded. Well done, Team 7. Next, Naruto interrupted, voice tense. Any chance we can get something more challenging? Like a C rank escort or something? Sasuke, arms folded, gave a faint grunt of agreement. Sakura, while less vocal, clearly wouldn't mind a real mission. The Hokage's brow furrowed. You've only completed a handful of missions. Typically, we require more experience. Naruto cut in, I understand. But I'm not a typical genin, right? We can handle more. A flash of annoyance crow. SSED the Hokage's face at Naruto's boldness. Kakashi coughed lightly, trying to diffuse the tension. Lord Hokage, I believe these three may be ready to test themselves. A simple C rank might be a good learning experience. Sighing, the Hokage conceded. Very well. There's an escort mission to the Land of Waves. The client needs safe passage home from a neighboring country. Keep in mind, this is still considered low risk. Bandits, at most. Naruto's heart leapt, recalling the wave mission from his old life, how it quickly escalated. Zabuza, Haku, dark memories mingled with cautious resolve. This time, things will be different. I'll show them the real me. Afternoon Konoha gates. So you're the ninja escorting me? An older man named Tazuna blurted, half drunkenly. He was short, bearded, and reeked of sake. A bunch of brats, and one masked scarecrow. Kakashi half smiled. We're fully capable, don't worry. Tazuna waved a dismissive hand. Yeah, just keep me safe, all right. Sakura forced a polite smile. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Naruto stared at Tazuna, searching the man's face. He remembered that Tazuna had hidden the true nature of the mission cost. He's probably still lying about the level of danger. They set off, passing through the towering gates of Konoha. As they did, Naruto felt an almost electric thrill ripple through him. I'm leaving the village again, but this time, I'm not the same. On the road just outside Fire Country, the midday sun beat down on them as they traveled the well-worn path. Birds chirped in the trees, and Tazuna swayed slightly with each step. Humming a tune only he could hear. Sakura wiped sweat from her brow. Are we getting close to the border, Kakashi-sensei? Another hour or two. Stay alert, Kakashi replied. Though he kept a relaxed posture, Naruto could tell he was scanning the surroundings. Just then, Naruto noticed something glistening on the dirt road ahead, a puddle. Which was strange in the middle of a hot day with no recent rain. He felt a prickle of danger. Exactly like before, he darted a quick glance at Kakashi, who gave him a nearly imperceptible nod. Sasuke and Sakura seemed oblivious. Tazuna trudged on, ignorant. As they drew level with the puddle, two chain-wielding figures in metal gauntlets erupted from the water, eyes wild. We are the Demon Brothers. One hissed. In a flash, they launched forward, trying to snare Kakashi first. The chain whipped around, severing the air only to slam into empty space. Kakashi had flickered away at the last second. The second assassin aimed a clawed gauntlet for Tazuna, but found his strike abruptly halted. Naruto had seized the man's arm telekinetically, halting it mid-swing. Really? You think that's enough to kill us? The man gasped, struggling against the unseen force. Sasuke took advantage, hurling a kunai that nearly nailed the assassin's leg. The attacker broke free of Naruto's grip just in time to dodge, but staggered. The other brother tried to circle behind Naruto. Sakura, startled but determined, hurled a barrage of shuriken, forcing him back. Kakashi then reappeared between the attackers, driving a swift punch into one's jaw, sending him sprawling. Arg! The second brother snarled, lunging at Tazuna again. Naruto reacted instantly, throwing a telekinetic push that sent the assassin flying into the trunk of a nearby tree with bone-rattling force. The man collapsed, unconscious. Silence fell, broken only by Tazuna's terrified panting. Sakura stared at Naruto, eyes wide. How? That was so fast. Naruto shrugged, ignoring the adrenaline buzz. They were amateurs. Kakashi knelt, tying the assassins up. So much for this being a low-risk mission. He fixed Tazuna with a pointed stare. Care to explain? Tazuna gulped. I didn't have the money for a higher-ranked mission. But the Gato company has mercenaries everywhere. I had no choice. Sasuke scowled. So we could end up facing more than just bandits. Kakashi nodded grimly. Precisely. Then he glanced at Naruto with a flicker of approval. Good work, all of you. Naruto wondered if Kakashi was also thinking about how quickly he'd neutralized the threat. That invisible force would raise more questions. Late afternoon, a campsite by the road. They decided to continue the mission, rather than abandon Tazuna. By evening, they set up a small camp near a river bend. Sakura prepared some simple meals. While Sasuke kept watch a few yards away, Naruto sat on a rock beside Tazuna, who was nursing a bottle of sake again. "You sure you're not drinking too much?" Tazuna smirked ruefully. "This helps me forget how much danger I've gotten us into." Naruto sighed, staring at the flickering campfire. "Better sober up. We're nowhere near Wave Country, and the worst might be ahead." Tazuna grimaced. "I'm truly sorry, kid. But if I don't complete that bridge, my country, my family, we're all doomed under Gato's tyranny." A glimmer of empathy flickered in Naruto. He remembered the significance of that bridge in his previous life, how it became a symbol of hope for Wave Country. Still, he kept his tone cool. "We'll get you there. Just don't hide things from us again." Tazuna nodded mutely. Across the fire, Sakura and Sasuke exchanged a few words about watch rotations. Kakashi was off gathering firewood, though Naruto suspected he was also scouting the perimeter. Suddenly, Naruto sensed a presence behind him. He turned to see Sakura approaching with 2 bowls of rice porridge. She handed one to him. "You need to eat," she said, her voice gentle. He accepted the bowl, murmuring thanks. For a moment, they sat side by side. Sakura glanced at him from the corner of her eye. "Naruto, about earlier when you stopped that assassin like it was nothing." Naruto kept his gaze on the flames. "It's just something I can do." She hesitated. "But I remember how you used to be, you always went charging in. Now you're—" She trailed off, uncertain how to phrase it. He finally looked at her. "What? Different? Maybe I just got tired of being the clown." Sakura flushed. "I didn't mean it like that. It's just like I'm seeing a new person." A flicker of old bitterness tugged at Naruto's heart. He forced a small smile. "People change, Sakura." She frowned, clearly sensing the wall he'd put up. But instead of pressing him further, she stood. "Well, get some rest after you eat. I'll take first watch with Sasuke." As she walked away, Naruto felt a tiny pang of guilt. She's trying, but can I really trust her? Can I trust any of them fully? He spooned the warm porridge into his mouth, ignoring the swirl of conflicted thoughts. Night. Kakashi's paw. Kakashi perched on a thick branch just outside the campsite, half hidden by foliage. The crackle of the campfire and distant murmur of voices filtered up to him. Below, Sasuke stood guard, leaning against a tree trunk with a kunai in hand. Kakashi's mind raced. Naruto's display of telekinesis was even more seamless this time. No hand signs, no visible chakra fluctuations beyond the norm. He's dangerously efficient. Yet the boy's composure worried Kakashi almost as much as the power itself. Naruto seemed guarded, distant, like someone who'd lived through betrayals far beyond his years. Kakashi recalled the Hokage's warning, the tension in the council. If Danzo decided Naruto was a threat, he might move to have him captured or worse. And if that happens, will Naruto fight back? A rustle of leaves alerted Kakashi to movement behind him. "You can come out," he said softly. Sakura emerged, climbing onto the branch. She nearly slipped, but managed to steady herself. "Sensei. I wanted to talk." Kakashi eyed her curiously. "Shouldn't you be on watch with Sasuke?" She glanced back at the faint glow of the campfire. "We're rotating every 30 minutes. Sasuke's got it for now." Then she pressed her lips together. "Sensei. Naruto's been so distant. I'm worried I don't know, like he's hiding something big. And this mission is already more dangerous than we thought. I don't want him to go off and do something reckless." Kakashi exhaled, understanding her concern. Naruto has his own reasons for being guarded. Pushing him might only make him withdraw further. The best thing you can do is show him genuine trust. Sakura's brow furrowed. "But it's not just that. I've seen him do things that aren't normal ninjutsu. I don't even know if it's safe for him." Kakashi placed a hand on her shoulder. "When the time is right, he'll share. For now, keep being a dependable comrade. Sometimes, that's the only way through someone's walls." Her gaze flickered with uncertainty, but she nodded. "I'll try. Thank you, Sensei." As she climbed back down, Kakashi stared into the darkness, a weight settling in his chest. Team 7's bond is fragile. If they can't stand together, the future could unravel in ways none of us want. Early morning near the Land of Waves border. Thick mist blanketed the road. The temperature had dropped, and the distant call of seabirds hinted they were drawing close to coastal terrain. Tizuna shuffled along, looking more nervous by the minute. Kakashi halted the group. Something's off. Keep your guard up. Sure enough, the faintest whisper of metal scraping came from the woods. Naruto tensed, scanning the trees. A flicker of movement, then a giant blade spun through the air, lodging itself in a tree trunk. From the swirling mist, a tall figure with bandaged sword handle slung over his shoulder appeared. Short, spiky hair framed a cold expression. Well, if it isn't copy ninja Kakashi. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Who the hell? Kakashi's voice dropped. Zabuza Momochi. Missing nin from Kurigakure. Zabuza chuckled, stepping onto the water's surface of a roadside marsh. I'm after the old man, of course. But first, I'll take care of you brats. Fear flashed across Tizuna's face. Sakura swallowed hard, glancing at Kakashi. But Naruto stood still, adrenaline thrumming. Just like last time, Zabuza formed hand seals with shocking speed. Ninja art. Hidden mist jutsu. Thick fog rolled in, visibility dropping to near zero. Stay close, Kakashi ordered. Sakura, guard Tizuna. Sasuke, Naruto support me. A swirl of water condensed behind them. Zabuza's water clone, aiming a slash at Tizuna. Sasuke sprang forward, parrying with a kunai. Another clone rose on Naruto's side. Naruto extended a hand, mentally gripping the clone, forcing it to implode in a splash of water. Zabuza's voice echoed in the haze. Interesting trick, kid, but you're still no match for me. Suddenly, the real Zabuza materialized behind Kakashi, sword raised. Kakashi spun, blocking with a kunai. Steel screeched. Zabuza's immense strength pushed Kakashi back several feet. Finally, a worthy opponent, Zabuza hissed. Kakashi's Sharingan flashed as he lifted his Hitai-8. The swirling pupil locked onto Zabuza, reading his movements. Naruto, Sasuke, be ready. Naruto's pulse pounded. In the old timeline, he'd panicked, relying on basic ninjutsu. Now, he had a chance to assert dominance. A barrage of water clones rushed them. Sasuke whipped out shuriken, hitting two before they closed in. Naruto lunged forward, unleashing telekinetic blasts that shredded clone after clone into misty spray. The real Zabuza slipped around, aiming to trap Kakashi in a sphere of water. Kakashi read the attempt and countered, but Zabuza pivoted with fluid grace, slicing through the air. Kakashi threw himself aside, but not before the blade's edge nicked his vest. Sensei, Sakura cried, keeping Tizuna behind her. Kakashi hissed, I'm fine, though blood stained his sleeve. Zabuza bared his teeth in a predatory grin. Your Sharingan can see my attacks, but can your body keep up? He lunged again, faster this time. Kakashi blocked, but a water clone manifested behind him, water prison jutsu forming around Kakashi's arm. Got you, Zabuza said. Kakashi tried to pull free, but the swirling water locked him in place from the elbow down. He couldn't form proper hand seals. Damn, Sakura paled. If Kakashi-sensei is trapped. Zabuza sneered at the remaining genin. Now, let's have some fun. Naruto's paw heart of the battle. Naruto took in the scene. Kakashi pinned by that water prison, Sakura trembling, Sasuke tensed to charge. In his old life, he'd panicked. But not this time. Sasuke, Naruto barked. We hit him together. I'll free Kakashi. Sasuke looked torn but nodded. They separated, circling Zabuza. Zabuza's eyes flicked from one boy to the other. Two brats. That's all you've got. Sasuke flew through hand seals. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. He spat a roaring blaze that lit the fog with a harsh glow. Zabuza quickly formed a water wall to counter. But the steam and smoke obscured his vision for a critical second. Naruto seized that chance. He sprinted in, focusing hard. Invisible force coalesced around the water prison, applying external pressure. Zabuza felt the pull, eyes widening. What? Water sloshed violently as Naruto's telekinesis pried at the prison. It wasn't a perfect solution. Zabuza's jutsu was stable. But Naruto's approach was unorthodox, forcing Zabuza to shift his grip and chakra flow. In that instant, Kakashi wrenched his trapped arm free. Zabuza snarled, but Kakashi delivered a swift kick to the man's side, breaking his hold entirely. Zabuza skidded back, releasing the water prison. You little pests, he snarled. What kind of jutsu was that, kid? Naruto's chest heaved. Wouldn't you like to know? Kakashi's Sharingan refocused on Zabuza. Now you're outnumbered again. Zabuza spat a curse, launching into a flurry of water-style attacks. Kakashi matched him, copying his seals to nullify each technique. The two Jonin-level fighters tore at each other, waves crashing across the battlefield. Sasuke and Naruto jumped back to avoid the churning water. Sakura shielded Tazuna, eyes wide. Suddenly, a monstrous wave rose behind Zabuza. He hammered it forward, flooding the clearing. Sasuke cursed, forced to leap into a tree. Naruto tried to stand firm, but the current threatened to sweep him off balance until he anchored himself with a telekinetic push into the ground, water swirling around his legs but not moving him an inch. He saw Kakashi slip beneath the roiling water, Zabuza pursuing. For a moment, everything vanished into foam and mist. Then Kakashi erupted from the water behind Zabuza, pressing a kunai to the Nuke Nin's neck. "I've got you," Kakashi said, panting. Zabuza attempted to twist free. But Kakashi's Sharingan read his move. A slash of kunai left a trail of blood across Zabuza's shoulder. Zabuza hissed in pain, stumbling. Before Kakashi could strike the finishing blow, a pair of Senbon needles whizzed through the air, embedding themselves in Zabuza's neck. His eyes went wide, and he collapsed with barely a sound. A masked figure appeared on a nearby branch, wearing a hunter nin mask from the mist. "Thank you," the figure said softly. "I've been tracking Zabuza for some time." Kakashi frowned. "He's dead." The masked ninja nodded, retrieving the body in a swirl of water. "I'll dispose of him properly. Farewell." Then they vanished into the forest, leaving Team 7 and Tazuna stunned. Naruto's heart pounded. Haku. He's still alive, obviously. This was all planned. Sasuke dropped down beside him. Brow furrowed. What just happened? Kakashi wiped water from his face, recovering his Sharingan. That was a hunter nin from the mist. Typically, they dispose of missing nin to protect hidden village secrets. Sakura exhaled shakily. "So, it's over." Naruto said nothing, unsure how to articulate his suspicion. In the old timeline, Haku had faked Zabuza's death to save him. "It's not truly over. He'll be back." Kakashi cleared his throat. "We can't be certain. Let's escort Tazuna to safety. Then we'll figure out our next step." Tazuna, still pale, nodded frantically. "Yes, please, let's go." Evening. Tazuna's house, Wave Country. They arrived in a modest seaside village, battered from Gato's oppression. Tazuna's home was a simple wooden structure near the incomplete bridge. The group trudged inside, soaked and exhausted. A slender woman with gentle eyes greeted them. Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter. She gave them fresh towels and guided them to a small dining area. "You all look like you've been through a war," she said softly, setting out hot tea. Sakura groaned, draping a towel over her head. "Feels like it." Sasuke just glared at the table, silent. Naruto slid into a seat, half listening to Tsunami fuss over Tazuna. "He's alive for now, but Zabuza isn't really dead." Kakashi, sitting at the head of the table, explained quietly, "We'll stay here while Tazuna finishes the bridge. In the meantime, we need to keep watch. There may be more threats." Tsunami bowed. "Thank you for protecting my father." After dinner, Tsunami showed them to a modest side room with futons laid out. "It's cramped, but I hope it's okay." "More than enough," Kakashi reassured her. Night outside Tazuna's house. Needing air, Naruto slipped outside. The moon shone over the gently lapping waters near the half-completed bridge. Memories of his old timeline flooded him. Zabuza's eventual redemption, Haku's heartbreaking self-sacrifice. Will it all repeat, or can I change it? He moved farther from the house, finding a secluded spot near a small dock. He tested his telekinesis by lifting pebbles and planks, letting them hover, then gently setting them down again. "Penny for your thoughts," came a voice from behind him. Naruto turned to see Sakura approaching, arms folded. She gave him a tentative smile. "Couldn't sleep." He lowered the floating plank. "Too wired." She stepped closer, peering at the water's reflection of the moon. "That was a brutal fight today. I'm still kind of shaken." Naruto shrugged. "You did fine, protecting Tazuna. It's more than we expected for AC rank." Sakura lapsed into a brief silence, then turned to him. "Naruto, about your powers, how?" She stopped herself, swallowing. I just want to know if you're okay using them. Does it hurt you? He studied her, half surprised by the sincerity in her voice. It doesn't hurt me, she nodded, relief flooding her features. Good. Then her eyes flicked to the side, and she spoke in a rush, look. I know I've been not the best toward you in the past. But I want to change that. If there's anything bothering you, you can talk to me, okay? Naruto felt a tangle of emotion. The old him would have jumped for joy at her concern. Now, it only highlighted his complicated feelings. He managed a faint smile. I'll keep that in mind. Sakura inhaled, as if mustering courage for something else. She tentatively reached out and touched his wrist. We're a team now, Naruto. So, we should trust each other. He gazed at her hand on his wrist. A part of him wanted to open up, to trust that maybe this time could be different. But the scars ran deep. Slowly, he slid his arm free. Thanks, Sakura. Let's head back. A flicker of hurt crossed her face, but she nodded, turning away. As she walked off, Naruto exhaled, ruffling his own hair in frustration. Why is this so complicated? Meanwhile, inland forest near Wave Country. A figure in a hunter nin mask laid Zabuza's body carefully against a tree. Then, with practiced precision, the figure removed the senbon from Zabuza's neck. Zabuza coughed, eyes snapping open. Damn brats, he growled, rubbing the wound. That blonde kid, what the hell was that power? Haku, the masked nin, spoke softly. It seemed like he was manipulating objects without touching them. I've never seen anything like it. Zabuza glared at the moonlit sky. No matter. We'll strike again once I've healed. That Kakashi is tough, but the genin, they'll be easier to take hostage if we plan correctly. Haku removed the mask, concern etched on delicate features. Be careful, Zabuza-sama. Underestimating that blonde boy might be a mistake. Zabuza's lips curled in a cruel smile. All the more reason to kill him quickly. The next morning, Tezuna's house. Kakashi woke the team early. He suggested they guard Tezuna at the bridge, but given Kakashi's injury, they'd proceed cautiously. Sakura volunteered to stay with Tsunami, ensuring no one attacked the house while Tezuna was away. Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi would accompany Tezuna to the construction site, ready for trouble. Before heading out, Kakashi pulled Naruto aside. We need to talk strategy if Zabuza returns. I might need you to use that telekinetic power to pin him down again. Naruto nodded. I can do that, but he's stronger than we thought. If he moves fast enough, I can't guarantee a clean hold. Kakashi's expression darkened. Then we'll adapt. Just remember, Zabuza's not our only concern. He might have an accomplice. Naruto stilled, recalling Haku's masked face. Got it. Midday, the unfinished bridge. Workers bustled around, hammering planks, reinforcing stone supports. The structure stretched partway across a vast waterway. Tezuna supervised from a central platform, occasionally hurling curses at lazy laborers. Naruto perched on a tall wooden scaffold, scanning the horizon. Sasuke stood below, arms crossed. Kakashi leaned against a pillar, apparently reading his book but keeping watch. It was quiet, too quiet. The hairs on Naruto's neck rose. They'll come. An hour later, the workers started packing up for lunch. Tezuna took a swig from a water bottle, then gave Team 7 a thumbs up. No sign of trouble today. Maybe Zabuza really did die. Sasuke snorted. If he was that easy to kill, he wouldn't be an S-class missing nin. Naruto said nothing, eyes on the water's edge. He felt a shift in the air, a subtle presence. Then, a thick mist began to roll in, unnaturally fast. Kakashi straightened, closing his book. Everyone, get ready. The bridge workers panicked, scrambling for cover. Tezuna paled, stepping behind Kakashi. Zabuza's chilling laugh echoed through the haze. Round 2, Copy Ninja. Cinematic showdown, bridge in the mist. Zabuza emerged from the fog, sword in hand. Haku, still masked, stood silently at his flank. Your life ends here, Zabuza growled. Kakashi lifted his Hitai-8, Sharingan revealed. Sasuke braced himself. Naruto hopped down from the scaffold, feeling his psychic power stir with a vengeance. Zabuza flickered, appearing behind Sasuke in a blur of speed. The Uchiha twisted, just managing to block with a kunai. But the force of the blow sent him sliding back. Haku meanwhile rushed Naruto, Senbon needles flung with pinpoint accuracy. Naruto lashed out mentally, deflecting most of them midair, but one grazed his cheek. They're faster than before. Kakashi engaged Zabuza in a fierce exchange of water-style jutsu, the swirling tide flooding part of the bridge. Sasuke and Naruto ended up fighting Haku, who gracefully danced around their attacks. Sasuke hurled fireballs, while Naruto tried a telekinetic slam. Haku dodged each strike, eventually cornering them near a half-constructed arch. Crystal ice mirrors. RS of reflective ice formed a dome around them, trapping Sasuke and Naruto inside. Haku stepped into one mirror, his reflection appearing in all of them. Naruto remembered this technique, the deadly speed with which Haku could move between mirrors. Last time, I barely survived. This time, I'm ready. Sasuke cursed under his breath, sharing a frantic look with Naruto. Needles rained down from multiple reflections, forcing them to dodge. Try not to get hit, Naruto muttered. Sasuke retorted, brilliant advice. Naruto smirked, ignoring the sarcasm. He closed his eyes, letting psychic energy hum beneath his skin. Focus. Sense the real Haku among the reflections. A whir of motion. Sasuke flung a kunai at one mirror, but Haku flickered to another, launching more needles. Naruto swung his arm, an invisible wave of force crashed into a mirror, cracking it. Haku gasped, the reflection flickering. You can break them, Sasuke blurted, wide-eyed. Seems like it, Naruto said. But Haku's fast. I need a second or two to focus. They nodded at each other. Sasuke flung a volley of shuriken, distracting the illusions. Naruto concentrated, telekinetic energy pooling in his palm, swirling like a condensed sphere of air. He thrust it out, targeting the mirror behind which he felt Haku's real presence. A powerful shockwave shattered the ice in an explosion of shards. Haku stumbled, leaping to another mirror. But Sasuke was ready, hurling a fireball that crashed into Haku's new position. The masked ninja twisted in midair, narrowly avoiding a direct hit, but the heat singed his cloak. Stop, I don't want to kill you, Haku cried, voice resonating with genuine sorrow. Naruto's eyes flashed. Then stand down. Haku's voice trembled. I can't. Zabuza-sama's dream depends on this. Needles rained again, and Naruto deflected most with a telekinetic swirl. One grazed Sasuke's leg, drawing blood. Sasuke grunted, but pressed on. They kept up the assault, cracking mirror after mirror with combined strikes. Haku grew increasingly desperate. He's cornered. At last, only a few intact mirrors remained. Haku, breathing hard, slid from one reflection to another. Sasuke, panting, readied another fireball. Naruto clenched his fists, preparing a decisive psychic blast. But just before they attacked, Haku vanished. The mirrors dissolved, leaving only a swirl of icy fragments across the bridge. Sasuke's head whipped around. He fled. Not exactly, came Kakashi's strained voice. He was locked in combat with Zabuza. Haku had reappeared to shield Zabuza from Kakashi's Reikiri strike. Sparks danced across Haku's body. The mask fracturing. Stop. Haku gasped, eyes half-lidded behind the broken mask. Blood trickled from his mouth. Zabuza roared, Haku, you idiot. Kakashi pulled his lightning-charged hand free. Stumbling back, Haku collapsed to his knees, the mask shattering completely, revealing a delicate, pained face. Naruto froze, memories of Haku's self-sacrifice flooding his mind. This was the same tragic outcome as before. But I can still save him. He rushed forward, ignoring Sasuke's shout. In a burst of telekinesis, Naruto yanked Haku away from Zabuza's line of fire, arms open to catch him. GHH. Haku coughed, breath ragged. Kakashi's Reikiri had left a deep wound. Zabuza spun, sword raised, but Kakashi pinned him down with a lightning-fast punch to the gut, fueled by his own anger. You used him to block my attack. Zabuza spat blood. He's just a tool. Kakashi's Sharingan burned with fury, but Naruto wasn't paying attention. He cradled Haku, channeling frantic telekinetic pulses in a desperate attempt to apply pressure to the wound and stop the bleeding. Why did you save me? Haku whispered weakly. Naruto's voice shook. Because you're not a tool. Tears glinted in Haku's eyes. Zabuza-sama. He needed me. Naruto set Haku gently on the bridge, kneeling beside him. You're your own person. Don't throw your life away for someone who treats you like nothing. Haku's vision blurred. I only wanted to be useful. Naruto gritted his teeth, glancing at Kakashi. Sensei, we need medical help. Kakashi subdued a raging Zabuza, forcing him to the ground with a kunai at his throat. Sakura, he called. Get Tazuna's workers to fetch a local doctor. Sasuke limped over, face pale from the needle wound. He stared at Haku, eyes flickering with conflicting emotions. An enemy, but so young. Zabuza growled. You're wasting your time. He's better off dead than failing me. Naruto's glare was ice cold. You don't deserve someone like him. If I hear you call him a tool again. Kakashi pressed the kunai deeper against Zabuza's skin, stopping Naruto's threat from going further. We'll let the Hokage decide your fate, Kakashi said through clenched teeth. But first, we save Haku. Moments later, aftermath on the bridge. Tazuna's workers brought a local medic, who knelt over Haku, administering first aid. Naruto hovered close, occasionally using a flick of psychic power to stabilize Haku's body or keep him from thrashing in pain. Meanwhile, Kakashi kept Zabuza securely bound in ninja wire, ignoring the man's curses. Sakura rushed up, pale and out of breath. Is it over? Oh God, who's that? Haku, Naruto said softly, not looking up. She stared at the unconscious boy on the ground, then at Naruto's blood-streaked hands applying telekinetic pressure to the wound. She swallowed. Let me help, she said, kneeling opposite him. They worked in tense silence, doing what they could until the medic took over completely. Naruto finally stood, stepping back, his limbs shaking from the adrenaline crash. Kakashi dragged Zabuza to a nearby post, tying him there. Zabuza bared his teeth but was too injured to resist. Sasuke leaned against the scaffolding, pressing a makeshift bandage to his leg wound. Naruto surveyed the scene. The battle was won, but the cost weighed heavily on him. Haku might still die, and the boy's devotion to Zabuza was disturbingly absolute. Early evening, Tazuna's house. They returned to Tazuna's place, bringing Haku, still unconscious, and the bound Zabuza. Tazuna's daughter gasped at the sight of a captive ninja. Kakashi reassured her they'd keep everyone safe. They set Zabuza in a corner, under guard by Sasuke, while Haku lay in a spare room where the medic continued treatment. Naruto paced in the hallway, mind racing. Eventually, Kakashi approached, exhaustion etched in his features. Naruto, good work out there. You saved Haku's life. Naruto turned, eyes hollow. But for what? Zabuza sees him as a tool. Kakashi rested a hand on Naruto's shoulder. People can change. You changed. Maybe Haku will too, if he realizes there's more to life than serving Zabuza. Naruto swallowed. I hope so. Just then, footsteps echoed on the wooden floor. It was Inari, Tazuna's grandson, returning from outside with a fishing spear. He peered at Naruto curiously. You're the ninja protecting Grandpa. Naruto nodded absently. Yeah, kid. Inari's lip trembled. Thank you. Ever since Gato came, life's been so hard. But if you can stop them. Naruto forced a small smile. That's the plan. Late night hallway outside Haku's room. Sleep proved elusive. Naruto hovered near Haku's door, occasionally checking on the injured boy. The medic said Haku's condition was stable for now, but the internal damage from Kakashi's Reikiri was severe. Sakura found Naruto there, arms folded, leaning against the wall. We should get some rest, she said quietly. I will, Naruto replied. Just making sure he doesn't wake up alone and freak out. She gave a soft nod, then hesitated. Naruto, you're beating yourself up over this, aren't you? He kept his gaze on the closed door. It just feels familiar. Sakura tilted her head. Familiar how? Naruto closed his eyes. Because I know this story. I lived it once. But he couldn't say that. Instead, he murmured, people used as tools, tossed aside, I've been there. I hate it. Emotion flickered in Sakura's eyes. She stepped closer, gently placing a hand on his arm. You're a good person, Naruto. Don't let your bitterness make you forget that. He turned to face her. Her expression was earnest, maybe even caring. A surge of conflicting feelings washed over him. For a second, he remembered how she used to belittle him, how she fawned over Sasuke. But now, she was trying. Before he could overthink it, Naruto leaned in and pressed a brief, soft kiss to her lips. Sakura inhaled sharply, eyes wide. It wasn't a passionate, drawn-out moment like with Ino, but it was enough to make her heart skip a beat. He pulled back, letting her see the flicker of vulnerability in his gaze. "Thanks, Sakura." She stood there, stunned, face flushing. After a second, she managed a shaky smile. See you in the morning." Then she hurried away, clearly overwhelmed. Naruto turned back to the door, heart pounding. What am I doing? He knew he had feelings for multiple girls, Ino's fiery confidence, Hinata's gentle devotion, and now Sakura's unexpected warmth. Part of him thought it was wrong to juggle these threads, but another part didn't want to push any of them away. "I'll figure it out later," he told himself. Pre-dawn and empty corridor. Sasuke took over watch duties. Naruto dozed lightly against the wall, only half asleep. Suddenly, a stifled noise came from Haku's room. Naruto jolted upright and rushed inside. Haku lay on the futon, stirring. His eyes opened, full of confusion and pain. He tried to move but winced. "You're safe," Naruto said softly, crouching at his side. Haku's gaze fixed on Naruto's face, then flicked around the room. "Zabuza-sama." Naruto hesitated. "He's alive, but we're holding him, for now." Haku struggled to sit up. "I must help him." Naruto gently pressed him down, using a touch of telekinesis to keep him from aggravating his wounds. "Stop. You'll tear your stitches." Haku's face twisted in despair. "If I can't serve him, what am I?" A surge of empathy welled in Naruto. He recalled Haku's tragedy, an orphan, ostracized for his bloodline, rescued by Zabuza, and turned into a living weapon. "He's so lost." "You're a person," Naruto said, voice trembling slightly with urgency. "Not a tool. You have your own will. Don't waste it on someone who treats you like a disposable blade." Haku's eyes glistened with tears. "But I have nowhere else to go." Naruto exhaled shakily, wanting to reveal everything, how he knew Haku's fate, how it all ended before. But he couldn't. Instead, he said, "There's a better life out there than being used. If you let yourself see it." Haku stared at him, uncertain, tears slipping down his cheeks. "You saved me. Why?" A swirl of old pain crossed Naruto's features. "Because nobody dares to be alone and betrayed by the ones they trust." A heavy silence settled. Then, slowly, Haku closed his eyes. Exhaustion pulled him under again, but his breathing was steadier, calmer. Naruto carefully tugged the blanket up, ensuring Haku was warm. He felt Sasuke's presence at the door. Sasuke spoke quietly. "You're too soft." Naruto didn't turn around. "Maybe." Sasuke paused. "But that was the right thing to do, I guess." Naruto looked over his shoulder, surprised. Sasuke scowled, arms folded. "Don't let it go to your head." A small smile tugged at Naruto's lips. For a second, he sensed a momentary brotherly understanding between them. Then Sasuke cleared his throat and stormed off, as if embarrassed. Morning threats linger. By sunrise, Haku was resting. Zabuza still sat bound, glaring at anyone who dared approach. Chizuna worked on finalizing the bridge, and the rest of Team 7 remained on high alert. Kakashi gathered them in the main room. "We'll stay in wave until the bridge is done. After that, we'll escort Chizuna home. In the meantime, we guard this place. There could still be remnants of Gato's mercenaries." Sakura looked uneasy. "And what about Zabuza and Haku?" Kakashi sighed. "We can't escort them back to Konoha in your condition. Nor can we release them. We'll keep them restrained until we can arrange for official transport." Naruto, leaning against the wall, sensed the underlying worry. If word got back to Konoha's elders that he'd used unorthodox powers to subdue 2 dangerous missing nin, Danzo might take an interest in acquiring them or punishing Naruto. Konoha will either brand me a hero or a danger. Possibly both. He recalled the Hokage's warning. Keep your powers in check. But it was too late to hide them now. Late afternoon, Konoha's dark corners. Far away, in the village hidden in the leaves, Danzo read a confidential report delivered by a root agent. The scroll detailed Naruto's latest feats against Zabuza. Danzo's single visible eye narrowed. So the boy can repel attacks, break advanced jutsu, and manipulate objects without touching them. This is more troublesome than I expected. A hooded root operative knelt before him. We have men stationed at the border. Your orders. Danzo tapped his cane thoughtfully. If the boy becomes uncontrollable, we must intervene. Keep watch. If an opportunity arises to subdue him without alerting the Hokage, do so. The operative bowed. Understood. Danzo's grip on the scroll tightened. Hiruzen is too lenient. That power, combined with the 9 tails, makes Naruto a ticking time bomb. I will ensure the safety of the leaf by any means. That same afternoon, beyond Wave Country's borders, a small squad of masked root operatives moved stealthily, heading toward the coast. Their mission was clear: monitor Uzumaki Naruto. And if he showed signs of turning rogue, eliminate or capture him. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. Shadows on the bridge. Dawn broke across Wave Country with the gentle splash of distant tides. Mist clung to the half-finished bridge like a ghostly veil, promising yet another day of uncertainty. In Tezuna's modest home, Team 7 and their captive duo Zabuza and the injured Haku braced for what lay ahead. The mission should have been a routine C rank, but Naruto knew better. Everything had changed the moment they encountered these 2 missing nin. Early morning. Tezuna's house, temporary infirmary. Zabuza, stripped of his oversized sword and bound in ninja wire, scowled from his makeshift corner in the house's storeroom. He refused to speak except for the occasional growl of protest. The tension in his shoulders spoke volumes. Even without the threat of Kakashi's watchful eye, he was clearly biding his time. A door slid open, revealing Naruto stepping into the adjoining room where Haku rested. Dawn's light illuminated the small space, dust motes floating in the quiet air. Haku lay on a futon, chest rising and falling in shallow but steady breaths. The local medic had done what he could. Now it was a matter of whether Haku's will to live exceeded his loyalty to Zabuza's ambitions. Naruto sank to his knees beside Haku, recalling the previous night's conversation. He's still so convinced his only value is to serve Zabuza. I know that desperation, Naruto thought, remembering his own lonely childhood. Memories of villager scorn clashed with the FAI.NT warmth of new bonds he'd forged in this life. But he doesn't have to be a tool. Haku stirred, eyes fluttering open. Dull pain etched lines across his delicate features. You, again, he murmured. Morning, Naruto replied quietly. You slept through the night. Haku tried to sit up, grimacing at the twinge in his torso. Despite the pain, he studied Naruto's face. Why are you still here? I'm your enemy. Naruto didn't flinch. I'm not sure you are my enemy. You fought us because Zabuza ordered it. But if you weren't forced, would you keep hurting people? Haku's gaze faltered. Zabuza-sama gave me purpose. He found me when no one else cared. You can find your own purpose, Naruto said, more fiercely than he intended. His own feelings about betrayal and belonging flared. Trust me, it's better than being tossed aside. A flicker of confusion crossed Haku's eyes. I don't know how. Naruto exhaled, unsure of how to convey the complexity of forging one's own path. We'll figure that out after this mission ends. But you have a choice, Haku. Footsteps padded behind them. Sakura peeked into the room, voice soft. Naruto, Kakashi-sensei wants us ready soon. He thinks there might be one last push from Gato's men. Naruto nodded. I'll be there. Rising, he met Haku's gaze one more time. Stay here. Rest. If you need anything, just call. Haku's lips parted like he wanted to protest, but no words emerged. Finally, he sank back onto the futon, troubled eyes drifting shut. Outside in the corridor, Sakura walked alongside Naruto, glancing sidelong at him. He's awake. Yeah, Naruto said. He's not exactly happy to be in our care, but I doubt he'll run off. Sakura folded her arms, biting her lip. He's an enemy shinobi. One move, and we could be in danger again. Naruto shrugged. If he tries anything, I'll stop him. He's barely able to stand right now. For a moment, they walked in silence before Naruto added, thanks for letting me handle it. Sakura gave a tentative half-smile. Well, you're obviously the one he trusts more, if you can call it trust. Then her cheeks warmed slightly. Also, about last night. He cut her off with a small, reassuring gesture. Don't worry about it. I just felt like you needed to know I appreciate you. He didn't mention the swirl of guilt he carried over being so open with multiple girls. I'm not leading her on, am I? The thought gnawed at him. But he pushed it aside for now. The mission took priority. They emerged into the main living space, where Kakashi waited with Sasuke and Tazuna. Tsunami hovered in the background, wringing her hands. A quick glance told Naruto that Zabuza was still in the storage corner, glowering beneath his bandaged mouth. Kakashi closed his ever-present orange book. All right, Team 7. Word around town is that Gato's thugs might try a final assault to stop the bridge's completion. We need to be ready. Sasuke stood arms crossed, eyes flicking toward the storeroom. What about him? He jerked his head at Zabuza. Kakashi half-turned. We're going to leave Zabuza here under guard. If Haku recovers enough to move, we'll lock him down too. Tsunami has a basement room we can use as a holding cell of sorts. Tsunami nodded anxiously. Yes, I'll keep an eye on them. I'm not a ninja, but I can at least sound an alarm if they try to escape. Naruto eyed Zabuza. The man's eyes blazed with hatred. But he made no move to break his restraints. Without Haku's assistance, and weakened as he was, Zabuza couldn't fight an entire squad. But he won't stay docile for long. If we're not careful, he'll retaliate somehow. Kakashi's gaze swept over his team. Sasuke, Naruto, Sakura will protect Tazuna at the bridge. But be mindful. Gato could send mercenaries to this house as well. We might have to split up if things go south. Ready. They answered in unison yes, sensei, and headed for the door. Naruto paused, glancing back at Tsunami. Keep your doors locked. We'll try to finish this quickly. She bowed, gratitude and fear mingling on her face. Late morning, the bridge construction site. The half-finished structure stretched across the water, steel beams and wooden planks forming a spine of promise for the impoverished land of waves. Workers pounded nails and hoisted supplies, their eyes flicking nervously at the thickening mist. Tazuna marched ahead, gesturing for everyone to hurry. We need to secure these last sections. Once the support cables are in place, the main crossing is functional. Kakashi nodded, scanning the perimeter. Might as well get comfortable. We'll stand guard until the shift ends. Sakura, stationed near the base of a large support beam, fiddled with a kunai. Sasuke perched on a higher vantage, keen eyes watching for any flicker of danger. Naruto joined Kakashi closer to Tazuna, leaning against a crate of tools with arms crossed. It felt eerily calm, the hush of impending conflict in the air. The local laborers worked quickly, hoping to wrap things up before trouble arrived. Every so often, a muffled clang of metal echoed strangely in the mist. Naruto, Kakashi said quietly, turning so only Naruto could hear, if you sense anything suspicious, alert the rest of us. Naruto nodded. Got it. He closed his eyes, stretching his psychic awareness outward. It wasn't exactly a formal technique, but intense concentration sometimes led high. Detect shifts in the environment, the faint presence of chakra or a malicious intent. Show me if there's anyone creeping up. Minutes bled into an hour, and the tension only grew. Even Tazuna's usual bellowing quieted as he felt the weight of unknown danger. Finally, one of the workers cried out, pointing toward the far end of the bridge. Hey, I see shapes in the fog. Kakashi tensed. Everyone, stand by. Cinematic confrontation. Gato's mercenaries arrive. At first, only silhouettes wavered in the dense mist. Then the murk parted enough to reveal a cluster of armed men, cutthroats, from the look of them, brandishing swords, axes, and crude polearms. Their leader, a lanky man with a scar down one cheek, let out a raucous laugh. Oi, old man Tazuna! He shouted, voice echoing. You shoal. Devey known Gato doesn't let dead men build bridges. Kakashi moved to intercept, kunai in hand. You picked a bad day to test us. The leader sneered. We're not alone, copy ninja. Gato hired a whole band of us. More shapes emerged, forming a ragged line across the bridge. They easily outnumbered Team 7 by a wide margin, perhaps 20 or 30 mercenaries in total. Naruto braced himself, heart pounding but mind steady. They're not ninja, but quantity can overwhelm quality if we're careless. He glanced at Sasuke up on the scaffolding. Sasuke gave a curt nod, ready to strike from above. Sakura moved protectively in front of Tazuna, who gripped a hammer nervously. You can do it, right? Tazuna muttered to her, voice trembling. These guys are like an army. Sakura swallowed, but forced confidence. We'll handle it. Kakashi raised his voice, the mild tone gone. Last warning. If you value your lives, leave now. A roar of laughter erupted among the mercenaries. One spat on the wooden planks. We got paid in advance. You're not scaring us off. Kakashi sighed. Then so be it. He blurred forward, closing the distance in an instant. The first mercenary swung a sword, but Kakashi Sid. He stepped and struck the man's temple with a precise blow, knocking him cold. Another lunged from the side. Kakashi ducked under the clumsy attack and delivered a spinning kick that sent him sprawling. Several more rushed in. Sakura flung a volley of kunai at the ones threatening Tazuna, keeping them at bay. Sasuke leapt down from above, unleashing a burst of shuriken. The star-shaped blades whirled through the air, forcing a second wave of mercenaries to scatter. Naruto advanced at an unhurried pace, the swirl of psychic energy flickering around him. One reckless bandit charged with a raised axe. Naruto barely glanced up. He flicked his wrist, sending a telekinetic wave that hurled the man back. Another trio rushed him, swords brandished. Naruto's eyes narrowed, and with a small grunt of effort, he yanked all three swords out of their hands telekinetically, letting them clatter to the planks. The men gaped, terrified, before Sasuke pounced and knocked them out with a flurry of strikes. The mercenaries started to panic. What the hell is that kid doing? Witchcraft or something? Kakashi took advantage of their confusion, weaving through them in a blur of Jonin-level skill. Before long, half the men lay unconscious or badly bruised, groaning on the bridge. Retreat, one shouted, but the scarred leader snarled. No retreat. Gato'll have our hides if we fail. They regrouped, trembling swords raised. Naruto inhaled, scanning for the biggest threat. Most of these guys are small fry, but they can still be dangerous to the workers or Tazuna. He spied a cluster creeping toward Tazuna's vantage point. Sakura was intercepting some, but more crept from behind the scaffolding. Naruto teleported in a blur of speed. No, not a literal teleportation, but a nimble burst of chakra and psychic impetus that propelled him across the planks. He materialized beside Tazuna, arms raised. That's far enough. The intruders froze. One lunged forward in desperation. Naruto seized him mentally, pinning him in mid-step. The mercenary's eyes bulged. Impossible. Naruto slammed him down with a harsh thud, swiftly knocking him out. Another tried to circle behind Tazuna, but Sakura flung a L-timed kunai that lodged in the man's leg, dropping him to his knees. Within minutes, the mercenaries realized they stood no chance. The scarred leader cursed and signaled a hasty retreat. Fall back, idiots. They scrambled, dragging wounded comrades away. In their haste, they nearly knocked each other over. Kakashi watched them flee into the fog with a grim expression. We should pursue, Sasuke panted, clutching his side where a stray weapon had nicked him. Kakashi shook his head. No, we need to secure the area. They won't regroup quickly, and we have Tazuna to protect. His gaze scanned the battlefield. Anyone injured? Sakura, breath unsteady, had a shallow cut on her forearm. Sasuke's slice at his waist was superficial. Naruto barely had a scratch, though adrenaline still coursed through him. Tazuna, physically unharmed, was wide-eyed, hammer trembling in his grip. That was amazing, Tazuna breathed. They never stood a chance. Naruto forced a grin, though his nerves hummed. We're not done yet. Gato might send more. Let's hold position, Kakashi affirmed. Once the workers finish the main structure, we'll escort Tazuna home and call it a day. Midday, a lingering threat. The workers, seeing the mercenaries routed, labored with renewed vigor. By noon, the crucial final supports were in place. Tazuna beamed with pride, despite the tension. The skeleton of the Gray at Naruto Bridge, though no one had named it just yet, was nearly complete. Kakashi gave the signal. All right, let's head back to the house. It's safer than staying out here. Are we sure they won't ambush us on the way? Sakura asked quietly. Kakashi eyed the misty horizon. We'll move carefully. I suspect they'll regroup, but after that beating, it might take time. The trek to Tazuna's house proved mercifully uneventful. The team stayed alert, scanning every shadow along the winding road, but the mercenaries seemed to have scattered for now. A drizzle of rain began to fall, pattering softly on leaves. Afternoon, Tazuna's house. They arrived to find Tsunami safe, though anxious. She greeted them at the door, relief evident on her face. "Oh, thank goodness. We heard shouting from the village earlier, but no one came here." Naruto glanced around. "How's our guests?" "In the basement," she said, lowering her voice. "The boy's injuries are still healing, and the other one, Zabuza, he's been quiet. Almost too quiet." Kakashi placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll check on them." "Thank you, Tsunami." Down in the cramped basement, they found Haku awake, propped against a wall with bandages covering his chest. Zabuza, still bound, sat a few feet away. Both looked up as Team 7 entered. Well, Zabuza growled, eyes flicking from Naruto to Kakashi. "Congratulations on repelling Gato's men. Didn't think that worm would send an entire band so soon." Kakashi's gaze hardened. "It's over for him. Once Tazuna finishes the bridge, the entire country will stand against Gato. We'll return to Konoha tomorrow or the next day. Then you two can face formal charges." Zabuza spat, though the saliva barely cleared his mask. "You think Konoha's courts scare me? Ha, just kill me now." Kakashi's Sharingan narrowed, but Naruto stepped forward, placing himself between them. "Enough. We didn't come here to argue. Zabuza, if you have a shred of honor left, you'll realize Haku risked everything for you. Don't throw that away by acting like a suicidal maniac." Zabuza stiffened. "You little..." Haku, voice weak, interrupted. "Zabuza-sama, please. We lost. Let's not make this worse." His face pinched with pain. "At least live." A flicker of emotion crossed Zabuza's eyes, quickly masked by anger. He turned his head away. Kakashi exhaled quietly, deciding not to push the matter further. Sakura watched the exchange, sympathy in her gaze for Haku. Sasuke hung back, seemingly disinterested but definitely listening. Naruto felt that old memory of heartbreak, recalling how this scenario had once ended with Haku's death. This time, the boys still drew breath. Better than nothing. Kakashi guided them out of the basement. Once upstairs, he led them to a corner of the living room. "Team meeting. Listen up." They formed a small circle, Tazuna drifting in the background. "We'll stay the night, then escort Tazuna to the bridge for a final inspection tomorrow morning," Kakashi said. "After that, we're finished. The local authorities can handle Gato's last goons, especially if the villagers band together. We'll take Zabuza and Haku back to Konoha for interrogation and see what the Hokage decides." "Will Haku be well enough to travel?" Sakura asked, concern evident. Kakashi shrugged. "We'll carry him if needed. He's stable." Sasuke's eyes flicked to Naruto. "And the rumors about your power. Word might get back to the council." Naruto looked away. "I'll deal with it." Inside, he felt a twist of dread. Danzo's involvement would be inevitable. "But I won't let them chain me again." He forced a confident smirk. "Anyway, let's get some rest." Kakashi dismissed them to recuperate. In truth, they were all exhausted from the day's battle. Sakura sought out Tsunami to tend her shallow cut. Sasuke slipped outside, likely to brood or practice. Naruto remained inside, heading to the small side room that had been set aside for him. Early evening. Naruto's makeshift room. Night came early under the dreary sky. Naruto sat cross-legged on a thin futon, mind drifting. The swirl of recent events felt heavy, but there was also a quiet sense of accomplishment. They saved Wave Country from a grim fate. And no one on his team had died. A better outcome than last time. Still, the real test loomed once they returned to Konoha. "Danzo, the council, they'll watch me like hawks." A soft knock on the flimsy door startled him. "Come in," he called. The door slid open, revealing Tsunami. She seemed nervous. "Naruto, there's someone here to see you," she said hesitantly. "Someone?" He frowned. "Who?" "Me," came a familiar voice behind her. Ino slipped past Tsunami, stepping into the room. She wore a traveling cloak, slightly damp from the rain, and had a satchel slung over one shoulder. Our eyes sparkled with curiosity and mild annoyance. "Didn't think I'd find you in Wave Country." Naruto blinked in surprise. "Ino, what are you doing here?" Tsunami quietly excused herself, leaving them alone. Ino huffed, removing her cloak. Underneath, she wore a form-fitting kunoichi outfit in the Yamanaka color scheme. My dad got wind that we were short on plant-based medicines out here. Some business arrangement with Tizuna's village. So he sent me to make a delivery. She raised an eyebrow. Imagine my shock when I hear you're here on a mission, messing around with your top secret powers. Naruto grimaced. Word travels fast. Quote, Ino crossed her arms. I had to confirm it for myself. So, what's going on? I heard some crazy rumors about you flinging swords through the air and swatting mercenaries away like flies. He considered giving her a dismissive explanation, but found himself too tired to lie. Look, it's not normal jutsu. I can control objects and energy in ways people don't understand. It's dangerous, and I'm sure the council back home won't like it. Ino paused, eyes narrowing as she studied his face. You're serious about them not liking it? A hollow laugh escaped him. Understatement. If Danzo and the elders think I'm a threat, they'll try to lock me up or worse. Her lips twisted in a grimace. Those old fossils. I guess I see why you were so on edge back in the village. She set her satchel down. Still, I'm here now. You might as well let me help with something. Her voice dipped into a teasing lilt. Or do I have to wait until the mission's over before we can catch up? Despite everything, a grin tugged at Naruto's lips. That flirty spark she has. Catch up, huh? He stood, stepping closer to her. So you came all this way to deliver medical plants and check on me? She flicked a stray lock of hair from her face. You can't blame me for being curious, especially after that little kiss in the flower shop. In a bold move, she leaned in, sliding her arms around his shoulders. But if you're too exhausted. Naruto's heart thumped. Thoughts of Sakura and Hinata flickered in his mind, but Ino's presence was magnetic, a swirl of perfume and confident allure. I'm not that exhausted. He dipped his head, capturing her lips in a firm kiss. She responded eagerly, pressing closer. Soft lantern light danced over them, shadows flickering on the tatami floor. Their breathing grew heavier, heat building in the moment. Despite the swirl of guilt about juggling multiple affections, Naruto found himself deepening the kiss, letting his tension dissolve in her warmth. Ino murmured as they broke apart briefly. You really have changed, Naruto. I like it. He brushed his nose against hers, a small smirk forming. Glad to hear it. His fingers drifted to the small of her back, pulling her flush against him. Ino's breath caught in a soft gasp, and she tilted her head for another kiss. The gentle rainfall outside only added to the hush of the moment. After a long minute, they separated, foreheads touching. Ino's cheeks were flushed, eyes bright with mischief. Well, that's certainly one way to say hi. Naruto chuckled softly, still catching his breath. Welcome to Wave Country. She teased a finger down his chest. I'll stay for a bit if you need me. Dad entrusted me with the delivery, but he didn't say I had to rush back. A swirl of conflicting thoughts hit Naruto. He was thrilled to have her here, but also aware of the precarious situation with the mission, Haku, and Zabuza. And Sakura is also here. Oh boy. We're dealing with a lot, but I won't turn you away. He said carefully. Just be careful around the house, there's some dangerous guests in the basement. Ino quirked an eyebrow. Dangerous guests. Missing Nin. Long story, he sighed. You can ask Tsunami about it if you're curious. For now, maybe keep your distance. Kakashi-sensei is probably going to freak out that you showed up. She nodded, brushing down her clothes. I'll let him know I'm here on business. If I can help, I will. Naruto pressed one last quick kiss to her lips and then stepped back, the moment's fire still dancing in his chest. Let's go. I should introduce you properly so no one thinks you're an enemy. Ino smiled coyly, then followed him out, cloak draped over her arm. Shortly after living room confrontation, Kakashi was seated on a worn chair, scanning the windows for any sign of intrusion, when Naruto and Ino entered. He blinked once, eye widening behind the mask. Sasuke stood near the door, arms crossed, giving Ino a mild glare of curiosity. I see we have a visitor, Kakashi said slowly. Ino gave a small bow, more polite than usual. I'm Ino Yamanaka, here to deliver medicinal plants and solutions from the Yamanaka flower shop. The local village hired us. She winked. And apparently, I also stumbled onto your mission. Kakashi rubbed the back of his neck. Interesting. So you came alone. Ino shrugged. I can Han. DLE myself, though I might have traveled with a few merchant guards part of the way. I parted from them in the last town over. Sasuke's stare softened a fraction. A long way for a genin. They must trust you. Dad trusts me, Ino corrected. Then she glanced at Naruto, a smug smile touching her lips. Plus, I have friends here. Kakashi eyed Naruto, then sighed, adopting that lazy tone. Well, as long as you don't interfere or put yourself in danger. We're finishing up soon, so no harm done. Just don't roam around alone. We've got plenty of hostels in the area. Ino nodded quickly. Got it, sensei. She gave a teasing salute. Naruto noticed Sakura in the hallway beyond, half hidden behind a partition. She stared at Ino with wide eyes, then flicked her gaze to Naruto. Crap, he could almost see her connecting the dots. Ino's playful body language, the flush on Naruto's cheeks. An uneasy wave swirled in his stomach. One complicated situation after another. Nevertheless, he kept his expression neutral. We'll fill her in on basics. Then I'll show her around. If that's okay. Kakashi lifted his book, flipping a page with disinterest. Sure. Don't stray too far. We might leave tomorrow. Sasuke scoffed. Make sure she doesn't get in the way. Ino shot the Uchiha an annoyed glare. I can handle myself, thank you very much. With that, Naruto led Ino into the house's small sitting area, passing by Sakura, who remained strangely quiet. At least she isn't yelling yet, Naruto mused, tension prickling at the back of his neck. Evening outside on the porch. As twilight deepened, the rain subsided. Lanterns glowed around Tezuna's house, reflecting off puddles in the dirt yard. Naruto stood on the wooden porch with Ino, gazing at the shadowy treeline. The village beyond was quiet. The aftershock of Gato's defeated mercenaries still hanging in the air. Naruto stuffed his hands in his pockets. Tomorrow, we either finalize Tezuna's bridge or handle any last threats. After that, we head back to Konoha. You might as well return with us. Ino pursed her lips thoughtfully. If Dad's okay with it, I can send word with a messenger bird that I delivered the goods. Then sure, I'll come back with you guys. He nodded. Then a flicker of caution crossed his mind. Once we're in Konoha, Danzo might start making moves. I have to watch out for Ino, too. She could get targeted if they think she's close to me. That possibility lit a spark of anger in his gut. No one's hurting my friends again. He turned to her, a strange earnestness in his voice. Ino, just promise me something. She looked up, eyes curious. If things get tense back in the village, you won't do anything reckless. If the elders or root operatives cause trouble for me, I don't want you caught in the crossfire. Ino's gaze hardened. You think I'd sit back while they come after you? She scoffed. I'm not that spineless. Naruto's jaw tightened, but he put a hand on her shoulder gently. I appreciate the loyalty, but I'd rather handle them myself than see you put at risk. She covered his hand with hers. Naruto, I get that you're strong, like crazy strong, but you're not alone. Don't push me away. He swallowed, a wave of conflicting relief and worry flooding his chest. All right, just be careful. She leaned in, pressing a brief kiss to his cheek. Same goes for you. They stood like that, close under the faint glow of lantern light. Until Sakura's timid voice broke the moment. Naruto, Kakashi-sensei wants to talk to you. Something about finalizing watch shifts tonight. He turned to see Sakura standing at the porch entrance. Eyes slightly downcast. Ino stepped back, giving Sakura a small nod, almost a truce, though tension crackled between them. Sakura forced a polite smile, then walked back inside. Naruto sighed. Guess that's my cue. He squeezed Ino's hand once, then followed Sakura. Later nighttime watch and lingering questions. Kakashi split them into shifts. Sasuke would watch the first half of the night. Sakura second, Naruto final. Ino volunteered to help, but Kakashi insisted she rest after her long journey, pointing out that she wasn't officially part of the mission. Just past midnight, Naruto stirred from a light sleep, awakened for his shift. The house was quiet, save for the soft breathing of its occupants. He crept outside and took a spot on the roof, legs dangling over the edge, eyes scanning the moonlit surroundings. One more day, he thought. Then we go home, where bigger storms brew. The memory of Danzo's cold gaze flashed in his mind. I won't be blindsided this time. He sensed a faint swirl of chakra behind him. Trouble sleeping? He asked, not turning around. Sasuke hopped onto the roof, expression set in its usual stoic lines. Couldn't sleep. They sat in silence for a while. The friction between them less abrasive than it used to be, maybe because they'd fought side by side so recently. Sasuke, gazing at the moon, finally broke the quiet. Haku. He risked his life for that scumbag Zabuza. I can't understand why. Naruto recalled the heartbreak in Haku's eyes. He thought Zabuza was the only family he had. When you're that alone, you cling to anything that gives you purpose. Quote. Sasuke absorbed that, tension tightening his jaw. Family. His thoughts likely drifted to the massacre of the Uchiha clan and his hatred for Itachi. Must be nice, to have found a reason to fight. Naruto recognized the undercurrent of envy in Sasuke's voice. Don't confuse loyalty with blind devotion. It can lead you down a dark road. Sasuke scowled but didn't argue. Instead, he turned the conversation. You said something about the council possibly coming after you. Because of this weird power. Naruto's eyes flicked away, scanning the dark tree line. Yeah, there's a man named Danzo who runs a secret group, Root. He's done terrible things for the sake of Konoha's so-called security. If he thinks I'm too powerful, he might try to take me out or control me. Sasuke's fingers twitched near his kunai pouch. Let him try. If you ever want help against those old idiots, let me know. There was a strange sincerity behind his usually cold words. Nah. Naruto felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. Hey, you offering to watch my back, Sasuke? A half-hearted scoff. Don't get it twisted, Dobi. I'm just saying. No one else in this village is allowed to kill you but me. Naruto laughed softly. Sounds like a plan. They lapsed into companionable silence, the night breeze ruffling their hair. For all Sasuke's arrogance, for all Naruto's wariness, there was a budding respect. Maybe we can rewrite more than one future, Naruto mused, remembering the previous timeline where Sasuke left to chase Orochimaru's power. Maybe I can keep him close. Pre-dawn, a subtle goodbye. Morning came with streaks of pale light across the sky. The house stirred to life. Chizuna prepared to depart for the final inspection, with Team 7 in tow. But downstairs, in the basement, they found Zabuza and Haku both awake and strangely cooperative. I'm not fighting you again, Zabuza rasped, though his tone still carried pride. I owe that bastard Gato a thrashing, but I see. And do it while I'm tied up in your Leaf Village prison. Kakashi frowned. Unfortunately for you, you're still a criminal. We can't just let you go free. Zabuza bared his teeth. Yeah, I figured. But if you plan to haul me back, do it soon. I've got nothing left here. Haku's voice was soft, resigned. I will go wherever Zabuza-sama goes. But, Naruto. He paused, meeting Naruto's gaze with a faint trace of gratitude. Thank you for saving my life. Naruto shifted. Don't waste it. He considered saying more but held back. He'll have to figure out his own path once we get to Konoha if the Hokage even spares them. Kakashi delegated Sasuke to stay behind for a short while, ensuring no last-minute ambush. Naruto and Sakura would accompany Chizuna, while Ino remained in the house, prepared to offer help or defend Tsunami. They all agreed to rendezvous at midday, then begin the journey home. Morning final walk on the bridge. The newly finished section of the bridge gleamed under the morning sun. Chizuna, flanked by Naruto and Sakura, inspected the final cable fixtures. A handful of villagers emboldened by yesterday's victory stood guard with makeshift weapons. Once these last cables are locked, the bridge is officially operational, Chizuna said, voice shaking with a mix of relief and pride. This is going to change everything for the Land of Waves. Sakura smiled. I'm glad we could help. Naruto scanned the horizon. No mercenaries lurked. The sea breeze carried a salty freshness, a sense of hope. He recalled how, in the original timeline, Chizuna would name the finish D-Project the Great Naruto Bridge, after the boy who inspired everyone. But maybe that won't happen exactly the same way, Naruto thought wryly. Chizuna finished checking the final panel. That's it. He exhaled, tears brimming. Thank you, truly. Wave Country owes you a debt. Naruto clapped him on the back. You did most of the hard work. Sakura added, yeah, Building a bridge is no small feat. Chizuna wiped his eyes. Hey, you're too modest, especially you, Naruto. I've never seen anything like that power of yours. It inspired people. No one had seen a ninja quite like you. Naruto's chest tightened, uncertain how to respond. Then Chizuna coughed awkwardly. We're, thinking of naming this structure to honor the one who helped us the most. My daughter insisted. Sakura nudged Naruto playfully. Hear that? Naruto shrugged, cheeks warming. Name it whatever you want. Just keep your people safe. Chizuna gave him a fatherly smile. We will. Noon departure. By midday, the final tasks wrapped up. Kakashi and Sasuke arrived, escorting a small band of guards to transport Zabuza and Haku. The missing nin were bound in heavier restraints, though Zabuza's and Haku's injuries left them subdued. Team 7 plus Ino gathered at the edge of the village. Chizuna and Tsunami said their goodbyes, tears in Tsunami's eyes as she bowed. Thank you, truly. Wave Country is forever grateful. Inari, Chizuna's grandson, clutched Naruto's sleeve. Come back someday, okay. Naruto ruffled the kid's hair. Count on it. With that, they set off. The journey back to Fire Country would take a couple of days. But at least the immediate threat was gone. The land of waves would slowly rebuild, free from Gato's tyranny. Road to Konoha. Quiet moments. They traveled in a small caravan, with Zabuza and Haku at the center, heavily guarded. Kakashi led the way, while Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Ino walked alongside. Occasional chatter broke the silence, but tension lingered. We're bringing two dangerous criminals into the village. Naruto reminded himself. The Hokage might show mercy, or might not. One evening, as they made camp near a freshwater stream, Naruto slipped away to collect firewood. Ino followed, weaving through the tall pines until she found him stacking branches by a fallen log. Mind some company? She asked lightly. He shook his head, glancing at her. Not at all. They worked companionable silence for a few minutes. Once they had enough kindling, Ino set the load aside. So, you did it. You saved an entire country from a tyrant. Kinda big, huh? Naruto shrugged, a small proud smile creeping in. Feels good to help people, yeah. Her gaze softened. You've always had that heroic streak, even if you used to be a loud knucklehead. He chuckled. I guess. Just with more style now. The memory of their earlier stolen kisses flashed in his mind. He cleared his throat. Look, Ino. She held up a hand. Let me guess. You're worried about me. About us. Once we're back in Konoha. That maybe it's complicated. He nodded reluctantly. Yeah. She set her jaw, determination shining in her eyes. I'm not blind, Naruto. I see the way Sakura looks at you, how Hinata dotes on you. You've suddenly become this mystery that everyone's drawn to. I get it, but I'm not backing down. I know what I want. Naruto admired her confidence, but Guild gnawed at him. I just don't want to lead anyone on. She placed a finger to his lips, silencing him. Stop overthinking. If you don't know exactly what you want, that's okay. We'll figure it out. For now, she leaned in for a quick, gentle kiss. I'm claiming my piece of you. Deal with it. A laugh rumbled from his chest as he set his arms around her waist. You're impossible, she winked. You love it. They lingered like that before returning to camp, where Sasuke and Sakura gave them odd looks, but no one commented. Kakashi merely raised an eyebrow, an amused tilt to his voice. Everything all right? Naruto smirked. Just fine, sensei. Return to Fire Country. Rising tensions. A day later, the group crossed the border back into Fire Country. The atmosphere grew heavier. Kakashi noted subtle movements in the shadows, as if being watched. He quietly whispered to Naruto, we have company. Likely Anbu or Root, monitoring our return. Naruto's heartbeat quickened. Are they going to attack? Kakashi shook his head. Not yet. Probably verifying the status of the mission, or evaluating how big a threat Zabuza is. We'll keep moving. The sight of Konoha's tall gates was a mixture of relief and dread. Home, but also the place where betrayal once festered. Naruto thought, memories from his previous timeline pressing in. They were greeted by a squad of regular Konoha guards, who promptly eyed Zabuza and Haku with suspicion. Kakashi flashed a mission scroll. Surrendered missing nin. We'll escort them to the Hokage. The guards nodded, stepping aside. As Team 7 and Ino led the captives into the village, Naruto ca. UGHT glimpses of curious stares from civilians and shinobi alike. Rumors had spread. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki had returned from a dangerous mission with 2 powerful criminals in tow, all while wielding unexplainable abilities. Danzo wasn't visible, but Naruto felt the pressure of his presence. He's lurking somewhere, or his root agents are. Next to him, Ino frowned, obviously sensing the tension. Late afternoon Hokage's office. Debriefing. The third Hokage sat behind his desk, pipe in hand, as Kakashi finished the mission report. 2 Anbu officers flanked the room, quietly monitoring Zabuza and Haku. Both missing nin had their hands bound behind their backs, heads lowered in a show of forced compliance. Hiruzen Sarutobi exhaled smoke, expression grave. This is quite a development. Zabuza Momochi and his associate Haku. Captured alive. Excellent work, Team 7. Kakashi nodded. They're severely injured and low on chakra. Transport shouldn't be an issue. The Hokage studied Zabuza. We will decide your fate soon. For now, you'll be held in a secure facility. If you attempt escape, you'll be killed. Zabuza glowered but said nothing. Haku remained silent, gaze downcast. Take them away, the Hokage ordered. The 2 Anbu escorted the pair out. Once they were gone, the Hokage turned his attention to Team 7 and noticed Ino standing with them. Yamanaka Ino, this was not your mission. Ino performed a respectful bow. Lord Hokage, I was in Wave Country on separate business. I assisted where I could, but Team 7 handled it. Hiruzen nodded, then peered at Naruto. And you, Naru, too. I hear your powers went beyond typical ninjutsu. Care to elaborate? Naruto tensed, old distrust simmering. It's a unique ability. I can move things with my mind. Telekinesis, if you will. The Hokage exhaled slowly, pulling his pipe away. The advisors in the background exchanged worried looks. That is unprecedented. We'll need more information about its source and possible side effects. Naruto shrugged, steeling himself. I'm still figuring it out, but I'm not a threat to the village unless someone forces my hand. An uneasy silence fell. Kakashi coughed softly, cutting through the tension. Lord Hokage, might I suggest we schedule a more thorough debrief later? Team 7 is exhausted. They need rest. Hiruzen nodded, though worry etched lines on his face. Agreed. We'll reconvene tomorrow. Naruto, please come prepared to answer questions about your power. For your own sake. Naruto met his eyes. I understand. As they departed, Danzo's ominous shadow hovered in Naruto's thoughts. The real battle might begin now. Epilogue of the day aftermath in Konoha. Outside the tower, the afternoon sun bathed the village in golden light. Civilians bustled, unaware of the looming tensions behind closed doors. Team 7 disbanded, each heading home or to rest. Ino parted ways, needing to check in with her family about her side trip. Naruto returned to his cramped apartment, a rush of conflicting emotions swirling through him. On one hand, they'd completed a harrowing mission successfully saving an entire nation. On the other, the village's scrutiny had never felt sharper. Tired, but I can't let my guard down. He flopped onto his bed, ignoring the dusty smell of the old mattress. His mind replayed the betrayal from the lost timeline, how it began with small rumors and ended in heartbreak. Not again. Resolve hardened in his chest. He'd stand firm, even if it meant facing Danzo's root or the council. He had friends now: Sasuke's grudging respect, Sakura's growing concern, Hinata's unwavering support. Ino's bold affection. I'm not alone this time. Closing his eyes, Naruto let the day's exhaustion drag him into a half-conscious doze. Tomorrow, he'd face the Hokage's questions. And beyond that, more storms brewed. But for now, the memory of that final wave in Wave Country, Tizuna's beaming face, the villagers, gratitude, the swirl of hopeful possibility was enough to let him rest with a faint smile on his lips. End of Chapter 4. To be continued.